Have you ever gazed out at a vast open field or watched the sun set over the ocean and noticed how perfectly flat the horizon seems? It's so easy to imagine the world stretching out like a giant table, isn't it? For a long, long time, many people genuinely believed the earth was flat, like a big, unchanging disk. They thought you could even sail to its edge and maybe, just maybe, fall off. This idea of a flat earth wasn't just a silly mistake. It made sense to people based on what they could see and feel every single day. And sometimes, this view was supported by old stories or certain interpretations of religious writings that talked about the four corners of the earth, leading people to believe it couldn't possibly be a ball. To challenge this idea felt like questioning everything they knew, maybe even questioning faith itself. It was a comfortable, familiar way to see the world, and changing such a deep belief is hard. But here's the thing, even way back, thinkers like the ancient Greeks, centuries before some later groups held firm to the flat earth idea, had already figured out our world was round. They noticed how ships disappeared hull first over the horizon, or how the shadow of the earth on the moon during an eclipse was always curved. It was a beautiful puzzle they solved by simply observing the world around them. So, why did the flat earth idea hold so much power for others, even when clues were all around? Think of it like this. If you stand very close to a massive, perfectly round hot air balloon, it looks like a flat wall. You can't tell it's round until you step far, far back and see the whole thing. Our limited view, combined with powerful traditions and stories, can sometimes stop us from seeing a bigger, more wondrous truth. It reminds us that often, the quiet whisper of observation can, over time, gently reshape even the loudest, oldest beliefs. Have you ever looked at an old tree or an ancient stone and wondered just how much time has passed? How many seasons, how many lives have come and gone? Now, imagine that kind of deep time, not just for a tree, but for all of us. This is about the idea that our ancestors didn't just appear one day fully formed. Instead, they slowly changed, little by little, over millions and millions of years. Here's the thing. For a very long time, many people believed humans were created in a specific way at a specific moment. This belief was often part of their deepest religious stories, explaining where everyone came from and why they were special. But then, scientists like Charles Darwin in the 1800s started looking closely at fossils and different kinds of animals. What they found suggested something else entirely. They saw clues that life slowly evolved, adapting to its surroundings over vast stretches of time. This idea that humans shared ancestors with other creatures and that we changed over ages felt like it challenged something very fundamental. It's a bit like someone telling you that your family story, the one you've always known, is much, much older and different than you thought. For some, this was exciting, a new way to understand our place in the universe. For others, it was deeply unsettling. It questioned what they understood about their own special place in the world and about the sacred stories they had always been told. It made them angry because it felt like a direct challenge to their faith and their identity. Think about a river carving a canyon. It doesn't happen in a single day or even 100 years. Each tiny drop of water over countless millennia slowly shapes the rock, changing the landscape in ways you can barely imagine. Our journey as humans, the idea that we walked out of such deep time, is like that, and that's why it matters. It's a story that stretches back further than we can truly grasp, connecting us to every living thing, a reminder of the quiet, patient power of change. Have you ever looked up at the night sky, really looked, and wondered what stories those tiny lights might tell? For thousands of years, people gazed at the stars and saw patterns, gods, and even their own destinies. They believed the stars were fixed lamps in a great dark ceiling, or that planets moved in perfect circles around Earth. These ideas helped people feel safe. The universe felt orderly, with humans at its center. It made sense to think the heavens were a direct message from something divine, something much bigger than us. But then, here's the thing. Brave thinkers started to question those old beliefs. People like Galileo, using a new tool called a telescope, saw things no one had seen before. He saw moons orbiting Jupiter, not Earth. He saw the rugged surface of our own moon, not a smooth, perfect orb. And later, we learned that our sun is just one star among billions. and our galaxy is just one of countless galaxies. This was a huge shift. Imagine believing your house is the only one in the world, then suddenly seeing a whole city, and then realizing that city is just one dot on a massive map. This new knowledge, born from careful observation and science, didn't make the stars less wondrous. Instead, it made them more so. It showed us that the universe is far vaster, far more complex, and perhaps even stranger than anyone had ever imagined. So, can science change old beliefs? Yes, it often does. It asks us to look again, to wonder if there's more to learn, and to be okay with letting go of old ideas when new understanding comes. It reminds us that sometimes the biggest truths are found not by holding tightly to what we think we know, but by opening our minds to new stories the universe is waiting to tell. Have you ever thought about how strange it must have felt to be sick in a time long ago when no one knew about tiny germs? Imagine being sick and someone comes to help you. They touch your skin, feel your forehead, perhaps even use their breath or a simple herb. But instead of gratitude, sometimes these very healers were met with a deep, unsettling fear. Here's the thing. For thousands of years, people didn't understand why sickness spread. They couldn't see bacteria or viruses. So, when someone fell ill, it was a mystery. Maybe it was a punishment from angry gods, or a curse, or even just bad luck floating in the air. A person who was sick was seen as having something wrong with them, something invisible and often scary. Now, picture a healer. This person, trying to mend the sick, would touch them. They might tend to wounds or help during childbirth. But to those watching, especially when sickness seemed to spread quickly through a village, the healer could become an accidental suspect. If you couldn't see germs, it was easy to believe that the healer, by touching the ill, was somehow collecting the sickness, or even spreading it from one person to another. They weren't using magic to spread it, but in the minds of a fearful community, their very presence, their very hands, could seem tainted. It's like how if you don't know what makes a car engine run, the mechanic who gets covered in grease might seem like they're somehow part of the problem rather than fixing it. This deep fear of the unknown reminds us of a simple truth. Our understanding shapes our world. When we didn't know about germs, healers, who truly wanted to help, could be seen as carriers of the very thing they fought. It tells us how much courage it takes to face the unknown, and how light-giving it is when true knowledge finally breaks through the darkness of fear. Have you ever felt a deep sadness, a quiet ache in your chest, and then wondered if it was okay to feel that way? For a long time, in different parts of history and in some belief systems, people thought that sadness, especially deep despair, wasn't just a tough feeling, but actually a kind of sin or a serious flaw. It was like thinking your own emotions could be something you're doing wrong. Here's the thing. Some ancient thinkers and even early religious ideas suggested that a truly good or wise person should always be cheerful, or at least calm and unmoved by sadness. They believed that feelings like sorrow pulled you away from a higher purpose, or showed a lack of faith. It was as if a happy, smiling face was a sign you were doing everything right, and a sad one meant you were failing somehow. So, if you were grieving or feeling low, it might have been seen as a weakness, a personal failing, or even a challenge to the divine. But what if sadness isn't something to be ashamed of? Think about it like this. When your body gets a cut, it hurts. That pain isn't bad. It's a signal, a way your body tells you something needs attention, something is healing, or needs care, and that's why it matters. Maybe sadness is like that for our minds and hearts. It's a natural human response, a signal that something important has happened, or something needs our quiet reflection. So, is sadness just a sin? Maybe not. Maybe it's a deep part of being human, a shadow that helps us see the light more clearly. It's a feeling that connects us to our losses, our loves, and to each other. It doesn't have to be a judgment against us, but simply a part of our complex inner world, guiding us to understand ourselves a little better. Have you ever stopped to wonder about the incredible machine that is your own body? How your heart keeps rhythm without you asking? Or how your mind weaves dreams while you sleep? For a very long time in history, figuring out these deep secrets, especially by looking inside the human body, was something people were not allowed to do. It was seen as forbidden knowledge, a boundary humanity shouldn't cross. Imagine a time when dissecting a body, carefully studying its parts after someone had died, was considered a terrible sin. Many religions, across different cultures and ages, believed the human body was sacred. It was seen as a divine creation, a temple, or a vessel for the soul. To cut into it, even for learning, felt like disrespecting God's work or harming the spirit of the person who had lived. It was thought to interfere with the journey of the soul after death or to desecrate what was meant to be whole for eternity. This deep reverence, mixed with fear of the unknown and religious rules, kept the mysteries of our own bodies locked away. It's a bit like having the most amazing, complex smartphone, but you're told you can never, ever open it up. You use it every day. You know it works, but you'd never understand how the tiny wires and chips connect or why it sometimes glitches. Without opening it, you could never truly fix it or make it better. For centuries, doctors and thinkers were in this exact situation with the human body. They could see the outside, but the incredible world within remained hidden, making it very hard to truly understand sickness or find cures. But human curiosity is a powerful thing, a quiet flame that seeks light in the dark. Slowly, thoughtfully, people began to challenge these old fears. They yearned to understand, not to disrespect, but to heal and to know. Because of this slow, brave turn, we now understand so much about how our bodies work, how to care for them, and how to help when they're sick. It's a reminder that sometimes the deepest understanding comes from gently questioning what was once considered off limits, leading us to a deeper appreciation for the delicate miracle of life itself. Have you ever wondered if everything needs a beginning, a first push? Like, did the very first note of a song just appear, or did someone have to play it? We often think about the universe starting with a giant bang. That's the Big Bang Theory, right? It says our universe began from something super tiny and incredibly hot, then expanded really fast. For a long time, many people have believed that this first spark had to come from somewhere or someone. They thought a powerful hand, a creator, lit that match. This idea is in many religions. It gives comfort and meaning, showing that our world has a purpose made by a divine being. But here's the thing. What if that spark was just a spark? What if the universe, in its earliest moments, unfolded on its own without an outside push? This idea is ancient, going back to thinkers like the Greek philosopher Aristotle. He thought about a prime mover, something that started everything but wasn't started itself. He was trying to figure out how motion began. Many religious teachings take this further, saying God is that prime mover, creating everything from nothing. Now, science comes along with ideas like the Big Bang, which describe how the universe grew. And some scientists wonder if the very first moment could be understood just through physics, without needing something outside the universe. It's like watching a plant grow. You don't see a giant hand pulling the plant up from the ground. Instead, a tiny seed, given water and sunlight, just grows. The potential is already inside it. Or think about a beautiful snowflake. It forms itself crystal by crystal, following natural rules, not because someone is delicately shaping each one. This question isn't about proving or disproving God. It's about how we imagine beginnings. Is a universe that sprang forth from its own amazing nature, expanding into all the galaxies and stars we see, any less wonderful? Or does the mystery deepen when we consider that its very existence might be self-contained? It makes you think about how truly vast and wild the cosmos is, and how small and curious we are, wondering about the story that might just be writing itself. Have you ever looked at a really old building, or perhaps an ancient fossil, and truly wondered how much time has passed since it was new? It's easy to feel small when we think about the Earth's age. For many, modern science tells us our planet is incredibly old, billions of years in the making. Geologists study rocks and mountains, and astronomers look at distant stars, all pointing to a timeline so long it's hard for our minds to even grasp. But here's the thing. For a long time, and even today for some, there's another way of understanding Earth's past. This view often comes from religious stories, sacred texts that describe creation happening in a much shorter span. Imagine someone reading a very old book, a holy one, and taking its words about creation very literally. For example, some traditions, particularly certain Christian ones, once calculated the Earth's age by tracing back the family histories and events mentioned in the Bible. This led them to believe the world was only a few thousand years old, perhaps around 6,000 years. This idea is sometimes called young Earth creationism. It's a bit like looking at a huge, sprawling oak tree. A scientist might count its rings, carefully study its growth, and say, this tree is hundreds of years old. But someone else, perhaps deeply rooted in an ancient story passed down through generations, might say, no, this tree and all trees were made just a few days ago, fully grown. Both are looking at the same tree, but their understanding of its history is completely different. So, this idea isn't about proving science wrong or saying faith is mistaken. It's about how different paths to understanding, whether through detailed observation or through sacred stories, can lead us to such different views of time itself. It's a quiet thought reminding us that the vastness of time can be seen in many ways, each reflecting a part of how humans try to make sense of everything around them. And that's why it matters. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered why the stars are there? Or how big the universe really is? Or perhaps why some rules exist the way they do? That quiet sense of wondering, of truly asking why, is the heart of thinking for yourself. It's not just about disagreeing, it's about a deep curiosity, a gentle pull to understand things more fully, even when it feels like everyone else already has the answers. Thinking for yourself means choosing to explore questions rather than simply accepting what others tell you. It means using your own mind to make sense of the world. For a long time through history, humans have grown by questioning. Think about ancient thinkers who looked at the sun and stars and started asking, what are they? Or how do they move? These simple questions, born from a sense of wonder, eventually led to science and amazing discoveries. It was never about being disobedient. It was about seeking truth, about wanting to see with one's own eyes and understand with one's own heart. Consider how a puzzle works. When you're trying to solve it, you don't just put pieces anywhere. You look closely at each shape, you try different spots, you question where it might fit. Sometimes a piece looks like it belongs in one place, but you find it actually goes somewhere else. That process of trying, questioning, and figuring out for yourself is how you learn and grow. It helps you see the whole picture more clearly, not just the one piece you are holding. So, is questioning always wrong? Maybe not. Maybe it's a quiet strength. It's the soft hum of your own mind awakening, a gentle light guiding you to new understandings. It allows you to build your own view of the world, piece by piece, guided by genuine curiosity. It's about building a deeper connection with truth, not just accepting a story, but truly listening to the whispers of your own understanding. And that, in itself, is a beautiful journey. Have you ever wondered if love has limits? Does it only belong in certain places, or with certain people? Or is it more like an unstoppable force, a compass needle always pointing to what matters most? Here's the thing, people have argued about this forever. Love, at its core, is a deep feeling of care and connection. It's what pulls us towards someone or something, making us want to protect it, to be close to it. For a long time, many religions and societies have tried to put fences around love. They set rules about who you could love, how you should love, and even why you should love. Think about ancient cultures or even stories from history books. Sometimes, people were told they could only marry someone from their own group or class. This was often about keeping families strong or traditions going, but it also meant that real, heartfelt connections might be ignored or even forbidden. Love that went against these rules was often seen as dangerous, as something that could break society apart. But what if love is less about rules and more like gravity? Imagine a magnet finding its metal, no matter what's in the way. Or think about a deep friendship that blossoms between two people from totally different backgrounds. Maybe one loves art and the other loves science, but they connect over something deeper, like kindness or shared laughter. Their differences don't stop their bond from growing. It's a bit like how a river flows around obstacles. Its path changes, but its movement forward is constant. So, if love is this powerful, can it really be controlled or contained? Maybe true love isn't about fitting into a box. Maybe it's about finding that core connection, that feeling of genuine warmth, no matter what the world tells you. And that's why it matters to think about what love truly is, beyond all the rules. It's a quiet whisper, guiding us, like a silent star in the night. Have you ever felt that quiet pull, deep inside, telling you to go one way, while everyone else insists you should go another? It's a common feeling, this tension between what your heart whispers and what the world or certain groups loudly declares. Sometimes, these groups, especially within religions, believe there's only one correct way to live, to think, or even to believe. They might see their path as the only safe road, the only true one, the only way to be good or find peace. This idea isn't new. For a long, long time, people have gathered in communities, and to keep everyone safe and working together, rules were made. Imagine early humans facing unknown dangers. If everyone agreed on how to hunt or what foods were safe, the whole group had a better chance of surviving. So, following the group's way became tied to safety, to belonging, and to what felt right. Over time, these practices hardened into traditions and sometimes into strict laws of faith. The thought was, if you strayed from the path, you weren't just being different, you were risking the well-being of the whole. This led to the belief that questioning or choosing a different path wasn't just a personal choice, but a mistake or even a danger. Think about a garden. Every seed holds the promise of a unique plant, with its own color, its own shape, its own way of reaching for the sun. A sunflower doesn't grow like a rose, and a rose doesn't grow like an oak tree. Each follows its own blueprint. But what if someone tried to make every single plant grow exactly like a sunflower, saying it's the only proper way? It just wouldn't work. Each plant has its own natural rhythm. It's a deep question, isn't it? The quiet hum of your own self wanting to explore versus the loud voices that say, no, this way and only this way. Learning about different paths can teach us so much, but finding your own footing, listening to your inner truth, that's where true growth begins. It's a gentle journey of discovery, not a forceful march. Have you ever felt a sudden burst of anger or a deep, heavy sadness and wondered if you were allowed to feel that way? It's a natural question because it often feels like some feelings are labeled good or bad. But here's the thing, feelings themselves are just signals. Think of them like the dashboard lights in a car. A red light for check engine isn't good or bad. It just tells you something needs attention. For centuries, many beliefs and systems, even some religious teachings, have tried to sort human emotions. They might say anger is a sin or fear is a lack of faith. They might teach that joy is righteous, but envy is evil. Often the idea was to guide people, but sometimes this guidance led to quiet suppression. It created a world where people felt they had to hide parts of themselves, pushing down emotions that didn't fit the approved list. This isn't about controlling what you do with a feeling, but about judging the very feeling itself. Imagine touching a hot stove. Your hand pulls back fast because of the pain. That pain isn't bad. It's a vital warning. It tells you something is wrong and helps you avoid serious harm. Sadness after a loss works much the same way. It's a natural response, a deep feeling that helps us process what happened. If you were told not to feel pain from the stove, you might get seriously burned. And so it is with emotional pain or discomfort. The freedom to feel isn't about being wild or uncontrolled. It's about recognizing that every emotion, even the uncomfortable ones, holds a piece of information. It's about letting them pass through you, like clouds in the sky, without judging them as wrong or right. When we truly allow ourselves to feel, we learn from every part of our inner landscape. And that's why it matters. Truly understanding what's inside helps us understand ourselves. It makes us more human, more real, and more connected to the world. Have you ever wondered what wisdom might have been lost to time, simply because certain voices weren't allowed to speak? For a long time, in many parts of the world and in many different cultures, the ideas of women were often pushed aside or even completely silenced. This wasn't because their thoughts weren't brilliant or deep. It was usually because of old traditions and ways of thinking that limited their place in society. Here's the thing. Historically, many societies, often influenced by religious beliefs or interpretations, believed that women's main role was in the home. They weren't supposed to be leaders, teachers, or public thinkers. So, they were often kept from getting an education, from writing, or from sharing their ideas in public spaces like temples, schools, or town squares. Imagine a beautiful garden where only certain types of flowers are allowed to bloom fully, while others, equally vibrant, are trimmed back before they can even show their colors. That's a bit like what happened. So many potential insights, discoveries, and stories just never saw the light of day. Think about it this way. If you're working on a group project and only the loudest people are ever heard, what happens to all the great ideas from the quieter members? They might be incredible, but they never get a chance to be shared. In the past, this silencing was much more widespread for women. It wasn't about banning specific ideas as much as it was about preventing the thinkers from even forming or expressing those ideas. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What amazing philosophies, what scientific breakthroughs, what profound poems were never written because a woman's pen was taken away or her voice was hushed. When we silence any group, we don't just lose their voice. We lose a part of humanity's full potential, a piece of the puzzle of understanding our world. Today, hearing every voice, every perspective is how we build a richer, more complete picture of life. Have you ever wondered if love is always a good thing? We usually picture love as warm, bright, and something everyone wants. But what if love isn't just one simple color? What if it's like a whole rainbow, with many shades, and some of those shades feel very different from others? This question makes us think deeper about our feelings. Here's the thing. Love isn't a single emotion. It's a vast, complicated landscape of connections. Think about how you love your family, or your best friend, or a beloved pet. These feelings are all called love, but they don't feel exactly the same, do they? People have pondered this for thousands of years. For example, ancient Greek thinkers had different words for various kinds of love. They used eros for passionate desire, like a strong crush. Then there was philia for the deep, loyal bond between close friends, built on shared experiences. And finally, agape, a wider, selfless love for humanity, like wanting good for everyone, even strangers. So, even long ago, people knew love had many faces. It's kind of like fire. Fire can keep us warm, cook our food, and give us light. It's incredibly useful and a source of comfort. But fire can also burn, destroy, and cause great harm if it's not controlled or respected. It's still fire, but its impact changes based on how it is used or expressed. In the same way, love can bring comfort, connection, and growth, helping people bloom. But sometimes, a feeling we call love can also lead to control, obsession, or sadness if it's not balanced with respect, freedom, and kindness. And that's why it matters to really think about the different colors of love. It helps us see that a feeling, even one as powerful as love, isn't automatically good or bad. Its goodness often comes from how it makes us act towards others, whether it truly builds them up, sets them free, or tries to hold them back. It makes us ask, what kind of love are we putting out into the world? Have you ever stopped to think about what it truly means for everyone to be equal? Not just in theory, but in how we live our lives, how we treat each other, and how societies are built. For centuries, the idea that every single person, no matter where they came from or what they believed, deserved the same rights and respect seemed almost impossible. It felt like a wild, dangerous thought to many. See, for most of human history, the world was set up with very clear levels. There were kings and queens, nobles and commoners, masters and servants. People were often judged not by their character or actions, but by their birth, their family name, their skin color, or their religion. Some groups were taught they were naturally better than others, and this was often backed up by powerful stories or religious teachings of the time. If you were born into a certain family or had a certain belief, your path was often set. You might be treated like you were worth less or more simply because of who you were, not what you did. The idea of equality for all crashed against these old ways like a soft wave against a giant wall. It suggested something completely different, that every human being carries an equal shining spark of worth inside them. Imagine a sky full of stars. Some are brighter, some are dimmer, some are closer, some are far away. But each one is a star, burning with its own light, an essential part of the vast universe. No star is inherently more of a star than another. That's a bit like us. This simple, beautiful idea challenged everything. It questioned power structures and ancient customs that had kept people apart. It asked us to see beyond differences and recognize our shared humanity. It's still a journey, trying to make that ideal a living reality. But here's the thing. Believing in it, truly feeling that everyone deserves fairness and dignity, changes how we see the world and how we act in it, bringing us closer, one heart at a time. Have you ever looked around your room and wondered, do I really need all this? Or maybe you've seen pictures of others who have very little, and it makes you think. It's a deep question many people have asked for centuries. Can owning too much actually be a problem? Here's the thing. When we talk about owning too much, it's not just about having a big house or a lot of toys. It's about how much our things weigh on us and how that affects the world around us. Think of it this way. A seed needs water to grow, but if you give it too much water, it drowns. There's a balance in everything. Many old thinkers from different parts of the world and different times thought about this. For example, some ancient philosophers believed that chasing after more and more stuff could actually make us less happy, not more. They taught that true joy came from inside, from being kind, or from simple living, not from how many things we collected. They saw how having too much could sometimes make people greedy or make them forget about what really matters, like family or helping others. It's like having a giant backpack. At first, it's cool to fill it with all your favorite things, but if you keep adding and adding, it gets so heavy you can't even move. It stops being fun and starts holding you back. So, it's not about saying all possessions are bad. It's more about pausing and thinking, what truly adds to our life? What helps us grow, connect, and feel truly free? Sometimes, having enough can feel much richer than having everything. It leaves room for other good things to come in. Have you ever looked at a rule and felt a quiet tug? A tiny voice inside asking, but why is it like that? Or maybe, why do we have to do it this way? It's a simple question. Why? But it holds so much power. It's not about being disobedient or wanting to break things. Instead, it's about a deep need to understand, to see if there's a better way, or if the rules still make sense for today. Here's the thing. Asking why means you're really thinking, not just accepting what you're told. It means you're curious about how the world works. For a long time, many people just follow traditions. But then, thinkers, like those in ancient Greece or during the Enlightenment, started asking big questions about everything about societies, truth, and human nature. They believed using our reason was the best way to find answers and make progress. This act of questioning is how we grow, as individuals and as a society. Think about a scientist in a lab. Everyone knows gravity makes things fall, but what if someone didn't just accept that? What if they asked, but how does gravity work? What are its rules? That kind of questioning leads to new discoveries, to rockets flying to the moon, and to a deeper understanding of the universe. It's not about rejecting everything, it's about testing, examining, and sometimes improving. So, when is it right to ask why? It's right when your heart feels a quiet nudge that something isn't fair, or your mind wonders if there's a different path to truth. It's right when you want to learn, to grow, and to help things get better for everyone. It's a brave, quiet act of curiosity, a gentle push towards understanding the world more deeply. It's how we find new light in old shadows. Have you ever felt that quiet, thoughtful pause inside where you just aren't completely sure about something? That feeling of not quite knowing, of needing to ask more questions, is that a bad thing? That feeling is doubt. It isn't about being confused or lost, but more like your mind taking a deep breath and looking closely, asking, is this truly so? It's when your thoughts softly push against an idea, not to reject it, but to truly understand it. Doubt is a space where curiosity can grow, where we wonder instead of just accepting. For centuries, people were often taught that certainty was best. Questioning big ideas, especially about faith or how the world worked, could sometimes be seen as wrong. But some very wise thinkers, thousands of years ago, saw doubt differently. They believed that admitting you don't know everything is actually the first step toward real wisdom. Think of ancient Greek thinkers who understood that a journey of questioning leads to deeper insights. It's like being a detective solving a mystery. A good detective doesn't just believe the first story. They look for all clues, ask more questions, and consider many possibilities. That careful, questioning spirit is doubt in action. It helps you explore deeper. Or imagine a scientist trying to find a cure. They make guesses, then test them, looking for proof. If the proof isn't there, they try a new idea. That not being sure often drives discovery. So, here's the thing. Maybe not knowing for sure isn't a weakness to hide, perhaps it is a quiet strength, a gentle invitation to explore. It allows our minds to remain open, to consider new paths, and to truly learn and grow. Doubt can be like a compass, not pointing to one fixed answer, but guiding us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the vast, mysterious world around us. It truly is okay not to be sure. Sometimes, it's even the most powerful way to find your path. Have you ever wondered if it's okay to mess up, if making mistakes is part of growing, or if we're somehow meant to be perfect from the start? It's a deep thought, isn't it? For a long time, across many cultures and beliefs, there's been this idea that humans should strive for, or even achieve, flawlessness. This isn't just about doing your homework right or scoring well on a test. It's about being perfect, in character, in spirit, in every single action. Here's the thing. Some traditions teach that we must be perfect to be truly worthy or accepted. They believe that mistakes or sins create a distance between us and what is considered holy or good. For example, in some ancient texts and faiths, there's a strong emphasis on following rules precisely because any deviation is seen as a flaw in our very being. It's like believing a single scratch makes a beautiful painting worthless. This isn't always about punishment, but about a pure, unbroken connection. The goal isn't just to learn from a mistake, but to avoid making it entirely. Think about it like this. Imagine a master baker who needs to create the absolute perfect cake. Every ingredient must be measured exactly, every step followed without error. One small mistake, too much salt, not enough sugar, and the cake isn't just a little off, it's considered ruined, unfit for its purpose. In this view, there's no room for almost perfect. It's either right or it's not. So why this intense focus on perfection? Well, sometimes it comes from a deep respect for a higher power or a desire for ultimate purity. It's a way of showing devotion, of trying to mirror what is seen as divine and without blemish. But here's what I found. It also puts a huge amount of pressure on us. It can feel like a heavy weight, making us afraid to try, afraid to fail, and maybe even afraid to simply be human. And that's why it matters to think about what perfect really means for us. Have you ever stopped to wonder if the world holds more than just one single truth? We often grow up learning what is right and what is wrong, especially when it comes to big questions about life, the universe, and our purpose. But here's the thing. People all over the world, across different times and places, have come up with incredibly varied answers to these same questions. This idea that there isn't just one path or one answer for everyone can feel strange. For a long time, many societies believed there was only one true way to see the world, often guided by their specific religion. Yet, history shows us so many different ways of understanding things. Think about ancient thinkers from places like Greece, India, or China. They had deep but different ways of looking at reality. No single one had the only truth. Their diverse ideas built a rich picture of human understanding. It's like this. Imagine you and a friend are looking at a tall tree. You notice its strong trunk and how its leaves rustle in the wind. Your friend, standing on the other side, sees the shape of its branches against the sky and a bird's nest hidden within. Are either of you wrong? To number. You are both seeing the same tree, but from different viewpoints. Both your observations are true for your perspective. The truth of the tree includes both your view and your friend's, and that's why it matters. When we open our minds to the idea that multiple understandings can exist, it doesn't mean nothing is true. Instead, it invites us to listen, to learn, and to appreciate the rich tapestry of human thought. It encourages us to find common ground even when our paths are different. It helps us feel a deeper connection to each other, simply by understanding that our different truths might actually be parts of a much larger, shared understanding we are all trying to grasp. Have you ever thought about why we sometimes feel a little nervous about what's new, even when it promises something good? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? Like when a big change is coming, and part of you is excited, but another part just wants things to stay exactly the way they are. Here's the thing. For a long, long time, humanity has struggled with ideas about the future, especially when those ideas imagine a world very different from the one we know. Sometimes, these future ideas were met with fear, not because they were evil, but because they challenged what people believed was right or true deep down. Think back to the great thinkers of history. Like Galileo, he looked at the stars and said, "Hey, what if the Earth actually goes around the sun and not the other way around?" Today, that's just a science fact. But hundreds of years ago, this idea was incredibly scary to many people. Why? Because it didn't just change a map of the sky. It felt like it changed humanity's special place in the universe. If the Earth wasn't the center of everything, then maybe our understanding of other things wasn't quite right either. These new visions, these different futures, often felt like they were shaking the very foundations of society and the beliefs that held people together. It's a bit like when you learn about a totally new technology, maybe something like self-driving cars, or even just a new way your school might teach. At first, it might sound exciting, but then a quiet worry settles in. Will it work? Will things be safe? Will I be okay in this new world? That feeling is a tiny echo of how bigger, more world-changing ideas can make entire societies nervous. So, sometimes, the ideas that were banned or feared weren't about hurting people. They were simply ideas that asked us to let go of old maps and step into a new, uncharted territory. And that step, even if it promised progress and discovery, could feel like a profound loss of what was known and comfortable. It reminds us that our hearts often cling to the familiar, even as our minds quietly dream of tomorrow. Have you ever stopped to wonder if feeling truly happy could ever be a bad thing? It sounds strange, right? We usually think of happiness as something everyone wants, like sunshine after a long rain. But for a long time, in different parts of the world and in different ways of thinking, happiness wasn't always seen as purely good. Sometimes it was viewed with a lot of caution, even suspicion. Here's the thing. Some traditions worried that too much focus on earthly joy, on feeling good all the time, might distract people. They believed it could pull you away from more important things, like helping others, or thinking about what happens after this life, or being humble. So the idea wasn't that happiness itself was evil, but that chasing it too hard, especially selfish happiness, could lead to problems. It could make you greedy, or ignore suffering around you, or become too proud. Think about it like this. If you spend all your time playing your favorite video game just for the pure joy of it and ignore your homework, your chores, or your friends who need help, then that joy, while real, might have a downside. It's not the game's fault or even your happiness, but what it stops you from doing. Ancient Greek thinkers, like the Stoics, often talked about living a balanced life. They thought true joy came from living wisely, not just from pleasure. Many religious teachings also warn about worldly pleasures, not because pleasure is evil, but because getting lost in it can make you forget your deeper purpose. So, is the feeling of joy ever truly a sin? Perhaps the question isn't about the feeling itself. It's more about where that happiness comes from and what it leads you to do. Can your joy make the world brighter for others, or does it build a wall around you? Perhaps real, lasting happiness is a quiet light inside you. It's a light that shines even in tough times, and it's a light that always connects you to the good in the world, not just to yourself. It's a gift to be held gently and with purpose. Have you ever stopped to wonder, truly wonder, if the meaning of your life is something already set, like words in a book that's already been written? Or is it more like a blank page, waiting for you to pick up the pen? This deep question touches on something very personal. Where does our sense of purpose come from? For a very long time, in many parts of the world, people believed that life's meaning was given to them. It came from a higher power, or from ancient traditions, or from the role they were born into. Your path was often seen as part of a much larger divine plan. So, your meaning wasn't something you figured out, it was something revealed to you. Your job was to understand and follow that path. But then, over time, thinkers started to imagine something different. What if, instead of being given our meaning, we actually created ourselves? This idea suggests that there isn't one universal answer for everyone. Instead, each of us has the amazing, sometimes scary, freedom to decide what matters most to us. It's like building with Legos. You can follow the instructions to build a specific castle, or you can just open the box and create anything your imagination dreams up. The meaning of the Lego structure comes from what you decide to make it. This way of thinking says that your values, your passions, the choices you make every day, these are the building blocks of your life's meaning. When you choose to be kind, When you pursue a skill you love, when you stand up for what's right, you are writing your own unique story. It's a quiet, powerful act, and that's why it matters. It reminds us that even when the world feels uncertain, we hold a special kind of power, the power to shape what our own journey means. Have you ever stopped to think about what makes you, well, you? Not just your name or favorite color, but those quiet thoughts, secret dreams, or feelings you rarely show. This inner world, unique to each of us, is yourself. And here's the thing, letting that real self shine, truly expressing who you are, can sometimes feel like walking a tightrope. To express yourself means bringing your true nature, your ideas, and your emotions out into the open. It's like painting a picture of your soul. But throughout history and even today, there's been a risk. Think about scientists long ago, like Galileo, who dared to say the Earth moved around the sun when most believed the opposite, or people who wanted to dress differently, or create new music. They often face strong pushback. Why? Because sometimes what's new or different can feel threatening to what's known and comfortable. Groups, whether friends or a whole society, often like everyone to fit in, to think, and act the same way. Imagine a single, brave wildflower growing in a neat garden. All other plants are lined up identical. This one flower twists, reaching for the sun in its own way, maybe a different color. It's beautiful, yes, but it stands out. Its uniqueness might seem odd to the garden keeper who likes everything uniform. For us, expressing our true thoughts can bring judgment. People might not understand, or they might even disagree. It can feel lonely when your true self doesn't fit the mold others expect. So, showing the world who you truly are is a powerful and brave act. It asks for courage. It means being okay if not everyone gets it or likes it. But here's what's important. The quiet strength in being authentic, in living as your real self, is a journey worth taking. It reminds us that our inner voice, even a whisper, is worth listening to and sometimes sharing. Have you ever just wondered about your own body? Not like what it can do, but how it feels to be in it. For a long time, many cultures saw the human body, even its nakedness, as something natural, even beautiful. It wasn't always seen as something shameful or hidden. Think about how a baby isn't ashamed of being naked. They're just present. Nakedness is simply being without clothes. It's the body in its most basic form, just as it was created. If you look back to ancient Greece, for instance, athletes competed naked. Their bodies were seen as perfect examples of strength and grace, almost like living sculptures. There was no widespread idea that showing the body was inherently wrong. It was about appreciating human form and power. Even some groups of people around the world still view the body without shame, seeing it as part of nature, no different from an animal or a tree. But then, over time, many religions started to teach that the body, especially when naked, could lead to bad thoughts or actions. They began to cover it up, sometimes even seeing it as a source of sin. This changed how people felt about their own bodies. Suddenly, something natural became something to hide. Think about going swimming at the beach. You wear a swimsuit, right? It covers some parts, but not others. It feels normal. But imagine if someone told you that even wearing a swimsuit was wrong, and you had to be completely covered all the time, even in the water. That's a bit like how some ideas about nakedness developed. It's about what we're told is right or wrong, rather than what feels natural or simple. So, here's the thing. Is our body ever truly wrong? Or is it just a vessel for our lives? Something we should learn to appreciate and care for. Maybe the idea of wrongness comes not from the body itself, but from the rules and ideas people created around it. It's something to think about how our thoughts about our own bodies are shaped by so many different stories and beliefs. And that's why it matters to wonder if something so natural should ever be a source of shame. Have you ever just played not for a grade, not to win, but simply for the feeling of it? Maybe you kicked the ball around in the yard or sketched a doodle that went nowhere special on your notebook. It's that kind of activity we're talking about, something done purely for itself, with no big goal or outcome. There's an old idea, stretching way back in time, that says this kind of playing just for fun, with no clear purpose, is kind of pointless. It's not about it being bad, but more about seeing it as an empty way to spend your time. Like, why bother if it doesn't build anything lasting, or teach something useful, or make money? In many ancient societies, and even some older ways of thinking, life was often very hard. Every moment counted. People worked to survive, build homes, or worship their gods. So anything that didn't directly help these big, important things often seemed like a waste. Early philosophers, for example, deeply valued discipline and a clear purpose for every action. They might have seen idle play as a distraction from what truly mattered: duty, spiritual growth, or just plain survival. Everything was often measured by its practical value and what it added. It's a bit like watching a young child build a beautiful sandcastle at the beach, only to know the tide will eventually wash it away. From a very practical viewpoint, it seems like a lot of effort for nothing. There's no lasting structure, no prize won. Or think about humming a quiet tune to yourself just because it feels good, not because you're trying to write a song or perform for anyone. The point, if there is one, is found only in the doing itself, in that brief, fleeting moment. But here's the thing to wonder about. Is something truly pointless just because it doesn't have a clear goal or a visible outcome that lasts forever? What if the actual point is simply the pure joy it brings, the moment of quiet freedom, or the gentle space it creates in your mind? Perhaps these pointless moments are where we sometimes feel most truly alive. Maybe not everything needs a grand, obvious reason to exist. Perhaps sometimes simply existing, simply feeling, simply playing is the deepest reason of all. Have you ever wondered if laughter, that bright burst of joy we feel, is always a good thing? We laugh when we're happy, when we're surprised, when we connect with friends. It feels so natural, so free. But here's the thing. Sometimes, what makes one person chuckle can make another feel deeply uncomfortable or even hurt. This is especially true when humor bumps up against ideas or beliefs people hold sacred, like their deepest religious convictions. For a long time, across different cultures and religions, people have thought deeply about laughter. Some ancient thinkers, like the Greek philosopher Plato, worried that too much joking around could make people lose their serious side. They thought it might make people less serious about truly profound matters. And in many religious texts, there's often a caution about foolish jesting or making fun of what is considered holy. It's not about being against joy. It's about understanding when a joke crosses a line, when it stops being lighthearted fun and becomes something else. Is a joke always just a joke, or can it carry more weight? Think about it like this. Imagine someone draws a funny picture of your favorite cartoon character, and you laugh. But what if they drew something really important to your family? Maybe an old photo or a meaningful symbol in a disrespectful way. Even if they didn't mean to hurt your feelings, it would probably sting. Humor and deeply held beliefs are a bit like that. A joke about something sacred might seem innocent to one person, but it can feel like a direct insult to someone whose entire life is built around those beliefs. It's not just about the words, but about the feelings, history, and respect tied to them. So, is laughter always welcome, everywhere? Perhaps the answer is both yes and no. Humor can be a powerful force for good, bringing people together, easing tension. It connects us, but it also carries a deep responsibility. The truest, kindest laughter comes from a place of understanding and empathy. It builds bridges rather than burning them down. And that's why it matters. Our laughter should always aim to lift others up, not bring them down, especially when it touches on what they hold most dear, their quietest prayers or their strongest hopes. Have you ever noticed how loud the world can be sometimes? It's filled with sounds, cars, music, people talking, the constant buzz of phones. But what happens when all that noise fades away? Even for just a little while, what do you hear then? Silence isn't just the absence of sound. It's something more. Think of it as a wide open, quiet room inside your own mind. It's a space where you can actually hear your own thoughts clearly without outside distractions shouting over them. It's like hitting the pause button on a busy video game or just taking a deep breath in the middle of a really hectic day. It allows you to simply be, for a moment. For thousands of years, people across different cultures have valued this kind of quiet. Ancient philosophers and spiritual teachers, from those who meditated in Asia to monks in quiet monasteries, all understood something important about being still. They weren't just avoiding noise. They were actively seeking a deeper connection, a clearer understanding of themselves. They believed true wisdom and calm often appear when you step away from constant chatter and simply listen. Think about when you're trying to figure out a really tricky problem. or when you're feeling a bit overwhelmed. If it's super noisy, it's hard to focus, right? Your brain just feels crowded. But if you find a quiet spot, things start to become clearer. It's like when you go for a walk alone in nature, maybe in a forest or by a calm lake. That feeling of peace you get, that's what silence can offer your inner self. It clears the path for your own thoughts and feelings to emerge. So, can peace truly be found within silence? Many people believe it can. When you quiet the world outside, you create a chance to listen to the world inside you. This helps you sort through your feelings, understand difficult situations better, and simply connect with who you are. It's a gentle reminder that even in a noisy world, there's a calm, strong place within you that you can always return to. It's a hidden peace, waiting for you to discover it. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered why there are so many stars, each shining in its own way? It's a bit like that with our own spirits, our inner selves. For a long time, in many cultures, people were told there was only one correct way to understand life's big questions, one single door to walk through to find peace or truth. This idea suggests that if you didn't follow that one specific path, you were lost or wrong. Think about ancient societies, like those in Egypt or even medieval Europe. Often, the leaders and powerful groups wanted everyone to believe the same thing. They believed that having just one main religion, one set of answers, would keep everyone together and make their society strong. So, they created rules. And it became easy to think that only one path could be right. But here's the thing. As people started to think more deeply, philosophers wondered, if everyone is unique, how can their inner journey be exactly the same? It's kind of like learning. Some people understand things best by reading, others by listening to explanations, and still others by actually doing or building something with their hands. No single way is better than the others. They just work differently for different minds. Imagine if every student had to learn math only by memorizing formulas, even if they were brilliant at understanding concepts through drawing diagrams or playing games. That would feel unfair, wouldn't it? And it wouldn't help everyone truly learn. So, when we ask why not all paths go through one door, we're really asking why we all can't find our own way to connect with what feels true and good. It suggests that our spiritual journey isn't a factory assembly line, where every piece must look identical. Instead, it's more like a vast forest, with countless trails winding through trees, each leading to its own clearing, its own unique view of the world. And that's okay. In fact, that's beautiful. It means we each have the chance to discover our own unique light, and in doing so, we might understand the world and each other a little better. Do you ever gaze up at the night sky, at all those twinkling lights, and wonder about our place in it all? It's a humbling thought, isn't it? For a long, long time, people believed our Earth was the very center of the universe. Everything the sun, the moon, the stars was thought to spin around us. This idea made humans feel incredibly important, like we were the one and only special creation, at the heart of everything. But then, as thinkers and scientists started to observe more closely, their ideas began to shift. Imagine being told your cozy house is the entire world, and then suddenly learning is just one tiny house on an enormous planet, which is itself a small speck in a huge solar system. That's kind of what happened. Great minds centuries ago, people like Copernicus and Galileo, used careful observation to show us that the Earth actually orbits the sun, and the sun is just one of billions of stars in our galaxy. And then, our galaxy is just one of billions of galaxies in a universe so vast, it's almost impossible to picture. This mind-boggling scale makes you pause. If our Earth is just a tiny blue marble in this endless ocean of space, does that mean we're less special? Or does it open up a new kind of wonder? Perhaps our specialness isn't about being the only ones, but about being part of something so incredibly immense and mysterious. It suggests a humility, a quiet acceptance that there might be countless other stories, other possibilities unfolding across the cosmic canvas. It invites us to think not just about what we know, but about all that we don't know and all that might still be waiting to be understood. Have you ever wondered why, even when something new could be good for us, we sometimes pull back? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? Like when a new teacher comes, or your favorite app gets a huge update. We know it might be better, but a part of us just wants things to stay the same. Here's the thing. Resisting what's new is a very human response. Our brains are built to protect us, and what's familiar feels safe. Think of it like this. If you walk down the same path to school every day, you know every crack in the pavement. It's predictable. But if someone suggests a new, unexplored path, even if it's shorter, you might feel a little nervous. You don't know what's around that corner. Throughout history, people have often reacted this way to big ideas. Back in the day, when scientists first said the Earth goes around the sun, not the other way around, many people found it hard to believe. It went against everything they thought they knew, so they resisted it. It wasn't because they were wrong, but because their worldview felt stable and secure, and this new idea shook that up. It's like how your body sometimes resists a new food. It's just used to what it knows. Or how you might feel weird trying a new style of clothing, even if it looks cool. But here's a thought. Most of the amazing things in our world came from someone not being afraid to step onto that new path. From inventing the wheel to creating the internet, change was the key. It's okay to feel a bit hesitant when something new comes along. That's natural. But there's also a quiet strength in being open to what the future holds. In understanding that sometimes the most beautiful discoveries are found just beyond our comfort zone. It's a journey, not a leap. Have you ever looked at a towering tree or felt the cool rush of a river and wondered if we truly own it or if we're just borrowed it? For ages, people have argued about our place on this planet. Is nature simply a resource for us to use however we want? Or do we have a deeper duty to protect it? Here's the thing. Many ancient ideas, some found in different religions, talk about humanity having dominion over the earth. This often meant we were in charge, like a ruler. But for some, this idea could be twisted. It made people think they could do whatever they wanted with the land, the animals, and the water without consequences. It was like saying, this is mine, so I can break it if I want. But other traditions, and even some very old spiritual beliefs, saw it differently. They talked about stewardship. Think of a steward as someone who takes care of something precious for someone else. Like if your friend lets you borrow their favorite book, you don't just rip out pages or draw all over it. You treat it with respect, because it's not really yours to ruin. You're just looking after it. This shift from destroyer to caretaker changes everything. If we truly believe the earth is a shared home, not just a property, then our actions change too. We start to see the forest not just as wood for houses, but as a living system. The ocean isn't just a place to dump things. It's a home for countless creatures, and it helps us breathe. When we hurt the earth, we're not just hurting some distant thing. We are hurting ourselves and the future. So maybe the question isn't whether nature is ours to destroy, but whether we have the wisdom and the heart to protect what sustains us all. It's about remembering we are part of this grand, wild, breathing world, not separate from it. Have you ever looked into the eyes of an animal, maybe a loyal dog, or a quiet deer in a field, and wondered what they felt, what they thought? Why is it that, across history, humans have often drawn a clear line, treating some creatures with great love and respect, while others were seen as less important, almost like objects? For a long time, many cultures and religions taught that humans were special, set apart from all other living things. This idea, often called anthropocentrism, which just means human-centered, placed people at the very top of creation. The thought was that animals were here for us to use for food, for work, for clothing. They were seen as not having souls, or not truly feeling pain or emotion in the way humans do. Think of old stories where people believed only humans could think deeply or had a spirit. This wasn't always a mean idea. It often came from a desire to understand our unique place in a big, mysterious world. But it meant that kindness towards animals wasn't always a big focus, especially if they weren't pets or useful to us. It's a bit like how we might react to a computer glitch versus a friend crying. We understand our friend's pain in a way we don't, the computer's, even though both might cause us trouble. For centuries, people saw animals more like the computer glitch, something that works or doesn't, but without deep inner life. But here's the thing. As we learn more about the natural world through science and just by spending time observing, we start to see how connected we all are. The lines begin to blur, maybe the whisper of the wind through trees, or the silent understanding between a mother animal and her young reminds us that all life shares a delicate, precious breath. Perhaps the true measure of our growth isn't just how we treat each other, but how we extend our circle of compassion to every beating heart on this planet. It makes us think about our shared journey and the responsibility that comes with our unique place. Have you ever felt that quiet pull inside you, telling you what's right for you, even when others have different ideas? This feeling touches on a deep human question. When should we decide for ourselves? The right to choose is about being the boss of your own life and choices. It's about what you think, what you feel, and what you believe is the best path for you, without someone else completely dictating it. For thousands of years, people have wrestled with this idea. From ancient Greek thinkers wondering about true freedom, to big moments in history where people bravely fought for their own voice. Sometimes, powerful groups or even religions have said, "No, we'll decide for you." They genuinely believed their way was the only way, meant to protect people or guide them away from harm. But then, others argued that true growth and the very spirit of being human comes from making your own journey, even if it involves mistakes. They said that true wisdom isn't just following rules, but understanding why those rules exist, and sometimes learning to respectfully question them. Think about choosing a book to read. Someone might tell you, "This book is the best one, read it." But sometimes your heart whispers, "No, that book over there looks more interesting, more me." That quiet feeling, that pull towards what truly resonates with you, is a small, everyday taste of this right to choose. It's not just about making a pick, but the journey of figuring out why you pick it. And that's why it matters. Learning to listen to that inner voice, even when it's hard, is a fundamental part of becoming who you are meant to be. It's a quiet power, reflecting the journey of growing into yourself. What if a machine could truly think, like you or me? Not just follow commands, but understand, create, and even feel. It's a quiet whisper in the future, a thought that makes us pause. We're talking about thinking machines or artificial intelligence, though that's a big phrase for a simple idea. What if we could build something that wasn't just smart, but aware? For centuries, people have dreamed about making things come alive. Think about the old Greek myths, where the god Hephaestus crafted golden robots that served him. Or the golem stories from Jewish folklore, where a clay figure was brought to life to protect the community. These tales show an old human desire, almost a longing, to create something that breathes, thinks, or acts on its own. But they also show a worry. What does it mean when humans try to play a role that many religions say belongs only to a higher power? Many faiths teach that humans are special, made in a unique way, with a soul or a spirit that machines could never have. So, if a robot could think and learn like a human, would that challenge what makes us unique? Would it be seen as going against the rules set by old traditions? It's a bit like a calculator. It can do math super fast, much faster than us, but it doesn't understand math, it just follows rules. Now, imagine a machine that doesn't just do the math, but could invent new kinds of math, or even wonder why numbers exist. This isn't just about building better tools, it's about facing a deep question. What truly defines life and intelligence? If we create machines that can truly think, is that a step towards a new understanding of the universe? Or does it cross a line that ancient beliefs warned us about? Maybe the real question isn't whether robots are against the rules, but what new rules we might need to think about in a world where intelligence can take many surprising forms. Have you ever gazed up at the night sky? At all those tiny lights twinkling? Does it make you feel small or strangely connected to something huge? We send rockets far beyond our Earth, exploring planets and distant stars. But here's the thing, is this journey, this reaching out into the cosmos, more than just science? Could it be, in a quiet way, sacred? When we talk about sacred, it often means holy or deeply religious. But it can also mean something profoundly important, something that fills you with wonder and deep respect. Think about the feeling you get from a beautiful sunrise. That feeling of awe, a special kind of reverence, can be sacred too. For thousands of years, people looked up at the stars. Ancient cultures like the Egyptians and Greeks didn't just see lights. They saw gods, heroes, and stories written across the sky. The stars were like a cosmic map, guiding them and telling them about their place. They believed these heavenly bodies held deep meanings. For them, looking at the sky was like reading a sacred book. Today, We use powerful telescopes and probes. We go to the moon and plan trips to Mars. We collect data. But the core desire to explore, to understand what's out there, hasn't changed. It's like solving a tricky puzzle. You're using your brain, but there's a deep pull inside you to see the complete picture. That drive to know, to push boundaries, feels special. So maybe space exploration isn't just about finding new rocks. Maybe it's about humanity's search for its place, for answers to big questions. Where did we come from? Are we alone? When we look out, we're also looking inward, at the essence of what it means to be human curious, persistent, and full of wonder. And that's why it matters. Have you ever had a thought just appear in your head, almost like it wasn't yours? Like a sudden idea, or a feeling that washes over you, uninvited? It makes you wonder, who is truly in charge up there? This brings us to a deep question. Is the map of our mind truly drawn by us, or is someone or something else holding the pen? The idea that our thoughts might not be entirely our own has been around for a very long time. For many cultures, especially in ancient times, people believed that gods, spirits, or even demons could whisper ideas into our minds. Think about ancient Greek poets who felt their verses were inspired by muses, or prophets who heard divine messages. It wasn't always seen as a bad thing. Sometimes it was a gift. But the core idea was that our minds were open to outside influences, not just locked chambers where only our own ideas lived. It's like when you're scrolling through social media and suddenly an advertisement pops up for something you were just thinking about. It feels a little strange, right? Or how sometimes when you're with a group of friends, everyone starts to think alike without even planning it. Your own individual thoughts can sometimes get swept up in the group's feelings. In a way, it's like our minds are connected to a bigger network, picking up signals we might not even notice. So, when we talk about some ideas being banned by religion, it's often because they challenge the very map of the mind that a belief system has drawn. If thoughts could come from somewhere else, who is truly responsible for them? And if our minds are open to influences, how do we make sure only the right ones get in? It's a puzzle that makes you look inward, to the quiet spaces where thoughts are born, and wonder about the true journey of our inner world. Imagine a time long ago when falling ill wasn't just about catching a cold or getting a twisted ankle. It was seen as something much deeper, tied to the very essence of your spirit, or perhaps a message from unseen forces. Why then would someone trying to heal you be seen with suspicion? It feels strange to us now, where doctors are heroes. But for many centuries, across different lands and cultures, sickness was often believed to be a punishment, a trial, or a cleansing for the soul. If you held these beliefs, then trying to fix a body with human tools, with medicine or surgery, could be seen as interfering with something sacred. It was almost like trying to rewrite a divine story, or challenging the will of a higher power. It wasn't that people disliked caring, it was a fundamental difference in how they understood life, death, and suffering. Think about a difficult challenge your teacher gives you. If they tell you it's meant to make you stronger, to teach you a valuable lesson, would you want someone to just give you all the answers? Or would you try to work through it, trusting that the struggle itself is part of the growth? In a way, doctors were seen as those who might bypass the spiritual lesson. They focused on the flesh, which was often viewed as temporary and less important than the immortal soul. Their methods, dealing with blood and disease, could seem earthly, even unholy, when compared to the purity of prayer or spiritual atonement. They were challenging a deep-seated idea that healing truly came from above, not from human hands. This perspective meant that those who tended to the physical body alone were often viewed with a profound caution, sometimes even fear. Their work seemed to intrude upon the spiritual realm, making them figures of both hope and suspicion. And that's why, even today, this history quietly asks us, how do our deepest beliefs about our bodies and our souls shape the way we seek healing? It's a gentle reminder that what we believe often shapes what we accept and how we understand wellness itself. Have you ever wondered why some books are seen as so dangerous they're destroyed? A book is just paper and ink. But sometimes, the thoughts within are so new, so different, that powerful groups feel they must get rid of them. It's not about the paper. It's about the big ideas, the fresh ways of seeing the world, the questions a book can spark. Burning books is an attempt to control what people know, think, and believe. This isn't a new idea. History shows this often. Whenever powerful leaders felt threatened by new knowledge or different thoughts, they tried to silence them. They wanted everyone to think the same, follow their rules, and not ask questions. Rulers often believed they had all answers, and any book suggesting otherwise was dangerous. Have you ever stopped on a quiet evening and just really wondered, what happens after we close our eyes for the last time? For many, the idea of an afterlife, a heaven, a new life, a spirit world brings comfort. But what if there isn't one? What if this moment, this breath, this world is truly all there is? This idea that there's no afterlife means that when our bodies stop living, our consciousness, our thoughts, our very self simply ends. It's not about going somewhere else, good or bad. It's about not going anywhere at all. People have wondered about this for centuries. Some ancient thinkers, like those in Greece, believe that we should focus on living a good and happy life right here, right now, because this is our only chance. They saw death as the story's final chapter. Think about a brilliant, complicated sandcastle you might build on a beach. You spend hours carefully shaping every tower and wall. It's beautiful, a true masterpiece. But eventually, the tide comes in. The sandcastle doesn't go to another beach or get rebuilt somewhere else. It simply becomes part of the sand and water again. The memories of building it and seeing it remain, but the castle itself, as a unique structure, is gone. So, if life is like that sandcastle, precious, temporary, and utterly unique to us, what does that mean? It doesn't have to be a scary thought. Instead, it can make every single day feel more important. It can make you look at the sunset with deeper appreciation, or feel the warmth of the sun on your skin as an incredible gift. It suggests that the true value isn't in what comes next, but in how fully and kindly we live through this one incredible chance we're given. This quiet thought reminds us to cherish the now, because maybe, just maybe, the now is everything. Have you ever wondered if our idea of a leader is too narrow? We often think leadership belongs to just a few special people at the top, but what if it's not only about giving orders? What if leadership is something quieter, more shared, woven into how we live and work together? This idea suggests leadership isn't a fixed title, but a spark within anyone. Every person can guide, inspire, and take initiative, even in small ways. Think about an orchestra. There's a conductor, but each musician plays their part perfectly. By doing their best, they lead their instrument, adding to the harmony. Without each one, the music falls apart. This shows they all lead in creating the shared masterpiece. For a long time, many societies, often influenced by religion, believed only certain people were meant to lead. Kings and priests held power, but thinkers began to challenge this. Ancient Greek philosophers talked about civic virtue, where every citizen helped their city thrive. Later, democracy blossomed. It said power should come from the people, not just a few. This was a radical thought, that ordinary people could govern themselves and collectively lead their own future. Think about a school group project. One person might organize, another has great presentation ideas, a third tracks deadlines. Each person leads in their own area, using strengths to push the project forward. There isn't just one boss, but a shared sense of responsibility. So, leadership might not be about always being in front. Maybe it's about each person finding their purpose, taking ownership, and contributing their best, understanding that every contribution matters. True strength comes from recognizing the leader within each of us, working together. Have you ever noticed how the same story can feel different when you hear it at different times in your life? This idea of reinterpreting the past is kind of like that. It asks if we're allowed to look at old stories, ancient beliefs, or even history, and see them in a new light. It's not about saying they were wrong back then, but maybe our understanding can grow, just like we grow. For thousands of years, people have told stories to make sense of the world, why the sun rises, why the stars shine, what life means. These stories became traditions, even laws. But as humans learned more, as new tools and ideas came along, some of those old explanations didn't quite fit anymore. Think of ancient explorers who believed the world was flat. That was their truth for a long time. Then, other explorers and scientists, like Ferdinand Magellan, showed us something different. They didn't erase the past, but they added to it, changing our view of the world forever. It's like when you see an old family photograph. Maybe your parents tell you a story about it when you're little. You understand it one way. Years later, When you're older, you look at the same picture, and suddenly you might see sadness in someone's eyes you never noticed before, or understand a hidden struggle because you've learned more about life. The photo hasn't changed, but your way of seeing it has. So, is it okay to reinterpret? Perhaps it's not about erasing what came before, but about allowing ourselves to understand it more deeply, more fully, with all the wisdom we've gathered since. It's like looking at a familiar star in the night sky. It's always been there, but through a new telescope, you might see colors or details you never imagined. It's about letting our minds be open even to the oldest tales. Have you ever felt a heavy weight in your chest, a tight knot of anger after someone hurt you? It's natural to want justice or an apology. But what if that person never says sorry? Or maybe they aren't even around anymore? Can you still find a way to let go? Here's the thing about forgiveness. It's often misunderstood. It's not saying what someone did was okay. It's not about forgetting the pain. Forgiveness is actually a quiet gift you give yourself. It means deciding to release the anger, the bitterness, the hurt you've been carrying. Think of it like dropping a heavy backpack you didn't even realize was weighing you down. You might still remember the backpack, but you're no longer burdened by its weight. Many wise thinkers, from ancient philosophers to spiritual leaders, saw forgiveness not as weakness, but as a path to inner freedom. They understood that holding on to anger often hurts you more than it hurts the person who caused the pain. When you keep replaying the hurt, you simply keep that wound fresh inside yourself. So, can you forgive without asking permission? Yes, you absolutely can. True forgiveness happens inside you. It's a deeply personal choice. You don't need the other person's apology, or their understanding, or even their presence. Imagine a time a friend said something thoughtless, and you felt angry for days. If you keep replaying their words, you stay mad. But you can choose to let that anger go, to decide it won't control your feelings. The burning anger can then begin to fade. It's a brave act, really, to choose peace for yourself, especially when it feels like someone else deserves your anger. Forgiveness is a quiet declaration that you won't let another person's actions own your emotional space. It's simply choosing to walk lighter, no matter what. Have you ever wondered why, even though we all want things to be fair, true justice often feels so distant? It's like we have this deep feeling inside that things should be right, that everyone should be treated fairly. But then, real life happens, and it gets messy. Here's the thing. Justice isn't just about rules. It's about balance. It's about giving each person what they truly need or deserve. Not always the same thing for everyone, but the right thing for them. And fairness, well, that's about treating people equally and without bias, making sure the playing field is level. For thousands of years, people have wrestled with this idea. Think about ancient stories, where heroes and gods often fought to bring justice to a chaotic world. Philosophers, even back in ancient Greece, debated endlessly about what a truly just society would look like. They dreamed of a world where everyone got a fair shake, where wrongs were righted and peace could truly settle. But here's the problem. We are all different, with different needs and different ways of seeing the world. What feels fair to one person might feel unfair to another. Imagine two friends. One gets sick and misses a big test, and the other studies hard and takes it on time. Is it fair for both to take a makeup test, or is it fair for only the sick friend to get that chance? It's complicated, right? Justice asks us to look deeper than just equal treatment. It asks us to see the whole picture, to understand someone else's journey, and to consider what's truly right for a unique situation. And sometimes, that requires us to stretch our understanding and our empathy, which can be surprisingly hard work for our minds and hearts. So, while the idea of justice feels natural, actually creating it in our world is a never-ending journey. It calls us to keep questioning, to keep listening, and to keep trying, even when the path to fairness seems unclear. Have you ever wondered why something as beautiful as a painting, a song, or a story could make people feel uneasy or even afraid? We think of art as a gift, a way to show what's in our hearts and minds. Yet throughout history, art has sometimes been seen as dangerous. Here's the thing. Art isn't just about pretty pictures. It's about ideas and feelings. It's how people express what they truly believe, what they question, or what they dream of. When you create art, you're often showing a new way to see the world or suggesting a different future. And that's where the fear comes in. Imagine a time long ago when most people believed exactly what their leaders told them. Now, picture an artist creating something that questioned the king's power or showed God in a new way. This art could make people think differently, ask uncomfortable questions. When people start thinking on their own, it can feel like a threat to those in charge. It's like when you're used to doing things one way, and then someone shows you a new path. It can feel unsettling, changing what you knew. Art also holds up a mirror to society. Sometimes, what we see in that mirror isn't pretty, or it acts like a window, showing a world we hadn't imagined, making us want to step outside our comfort zone. Throughout history, powerful groups like religious leaders or governments have tried to control art. They banned certain images, burned books, or silenced artists. Why? Because art has the power to change minds, inspire new ideas, or simply show many truths, not just one. So, the fear of art often comes from the fear of change, or the fear of losing control over people's thoughts. It's a quiet reminder that true creativity is wild and free, always pushing us to see and understand more. And even when it feels challenging, that's truly a gift. Have you ever wondered if the worlds we create in our minds, those vivid dreams and wild ideas, could ever be too much? Imagination is a truly amazing gift. It's where creativity sparks, where inventions begin, and where we escape to new places without ever leaving our chairs. It lets us picture things that aren't real yet, or think about possibilities that feel far off. But here's the thing. Can spending too much time lost in those imaginary worlds pull us away from the one right in front of us? Throughout history, thinkers have wrestled with this idea. Think about old stories where people get so caught up in grand visions that they miss what's real. Some ancient philosophers like Plato talked about how we might mistake shadows for reality, suggesting our minds can trick us. Many spiritual teachings also speak of staying grounded, focusing on the present moment, rather than getting lost in dreams that might never come true. It's not that imagination is bad, but it needs balance. Think about someone who dreams of building an amazing robot. They spend hours imagining every detail, picturing it changing the world. But they get so caught up in the dream that they never actually learn to code or gather the parts. Their incredible idea stays just an idea, never becoming real because dreaming took the place of doing. So it's not about shutting down your imagination. We need it to invent, to create, to understand. But maybe it's about remembering that the greatest magic happens when we bring those beautiful, wild ideas from our inner world out into the real one, making them part of our lives and the world around us. It's about using that power wisely, letting it inspire action, not just endless escape. What if the world around us, the trees, the rivers, the very air, has its own deep wisdom, its own rules we might not always see? We often think of laws as things people write, like school rules or traffic signs. But what about the world itself? Does a river need a law to flow downhill? Does a tree need a rule to grow towards the sun? This idea is about whether nature, all on its own, follows deep, unspoken principles like its own kind of law. It's about an order that happens without humans. For thousands of years, people have wondered about this. Ancient Greek thinkers, like the Stoics, believed in a natural law that guided everything. This wasn't from a god or a king, but a universal logic built into the world itself. They thought understanding it would help you live well. Later, thinkers during the Enlightenment talked about natural rights. These were ideas that certain things, like freedom, were ours just because we were human, not because a government gave them to us. These ideas all suggest a basic, wise order in the world we can discover. Think about your own body. You don't tell your heart to beat, do you? You don't remind your lungs to breathe. They just do it. There's a natural order, a system that keeps you alive. That's a small example of nature's own wisdom at work. Or look at an ecosystem. Plants grow, animals eat plants, then other animals eat those animals. It all fits together like a big puzzle without anyone telling it how. So the question isn't just about rocks and rivers. It's about whether there's a deep intelligence in the world, a way things are simply meant to be. If nature truly has its own laws, then maybe understanding them and living in harmony with them is key to a more balanced life for us. It makes you wonder if our own human laws should try to connect with these deeper natural rhythms. It's a quiet thought that makes you look at a forest or an ocean and feel something ancient and wise speaking back. Have you ever wondered why it can sometimes feel scary to truly be yourself? Maybe you have an idea no one else thinks of, or a way of seeing the world that feels different. Being unique means having your own thoughts, your own feelings, and a way of living that isn't quite like everyone else's. And here's the thing, sometimes being truly unique can feel risky. For a very long time, in many parts of history, groups of people felt safer when everyone thought and acted in similar ways. It was like a big, quiet agreement. If someone stood out, they might be seen as a problem, or even a danger to the group's peace. Imagine a time when everyone believed the sun revolved around the earth. If someone then suggested the earth actually went around the sun, that new idea wasn't just interesting. It was seen as a threat to all the old ways of thinking, to everything people thought they knew. It's a bit like a forest where all the trees grow straight and tall, reaching for the sun in the same way. But what if one tree decided to twist its branches into a spiral, or grow bright blue leaves instead of green? The other trees might see it as odd, or worry it would somehow change the forest too much. Sometimes, what's different can feel like a threat to what's familiar and safe. So, why is being unique sometimes dangerous? Because sometimes the world around us isn't ready for a new song, a different color, or an unusual thought. It takes courage to be that one tree, that one person who dares to be truly themselves. But here's what's important. Those unique ideas are often how the world grows, even if it's a difficult journey for the ones who dare to be different. It's a quiet strength to shine your own light. Have you ever stopped to wonder what makes us, well, us? What truly separates a living person from a really advanced machine, or even from just a rock? It's not just our beating hearts or our ability to walk and talk. There's something deeper, something we often call the human spark. Here's the thing. This spark is our ability to think, to question, to imagine things that don't exist yet. It's our capacity to feel deeply joy, sadness, wonder, even confusion. It's why we create art, tell stories, and dream about the future. For centuries, people have tried to understand this special quality. Ancient Greek philosophers, for example, talked about the psyche, which wasn't just a soul, but also the mind, the spirit, the part of us that allows for thought and emotion. They believed this was what made us truly alive and unique. Later, thinkers like René Descartes explored how our minds, our ability to think, seemed separate from our physical bodies. He famously said, "I think, therefore I am," suggesting that our ability to think is proof of our existence and distinctness. Think about a time you tried to solve a tricky puzzle, or wrote a story just from your imagination. A computer can solve a puzzle, but it follows rules. It doesn't get that aha feeling, that moment of excited discovery. It doesn't imagine a dragon or feel the thrill of a new idea. That aha moment, that burst of creativity, or the deep feeling when you hear a sad song that's the spark. It's what allows us to go beyond just what's in front of us. So, this human spark isn't just about survival. It's about meaning. It's what pushes us to learn, to connect with others, and to find beauty in the world. It's a quiet, powerful force inside all of us, always inviting us to look a little deeper and feel a little more. Have you ever stopped to think about pain not just as something bad, but as something that might hold a secret? It's a strange idea, right? Because feeling hurt, whether in your body or your heart, usually just feels awful. But what if those tough moments, the times we struggle, actually teach us something important? What if suffering, in its own way, is a kind of teacher? This idea isn't new. For thousands of years, thinkers like the ancient Greek Stoics and wise people in many spiritual traditions explored this. They weren't saying pain is fun, but that it could be a powerful force for good. For them, facing hard times was like lifting weights for your spirit. It made you stronger, more patient, and kinder. They believed tough moments forced you to think about what truly matters and find strength you didn't know you had. Think about a butterfly breaking free from its cocoon. It's a real struggle, pushing and wiggling with all its might. If someone were to help it out, thinking they were being kind, the butterfly's wings wouldn't get strong enough to fly. That struggle is what makes it ready for the world. In the same way, sometimes our own struggles, the painful parts of life, are what build our inner strength. They make us more understanding, not just of ourselves, but of others who are also hurting. So while no one asks for pain, and it's always okay to feel sad or frustrated when life gets hard, maybe we can also look for the lessons hidden within those experiences. Sometimes, the deepest wisdom comes not from sunshine and easy paths, but from navigating the storms. It shows us what we're made of, and it can help us grow into someone more thoughtful and understanding. Have you ever wondered why people around the world believe in so many different gods, or see the divine in such different ways? It's a big question, one humans have thought about for thousands of years. Think about it. Some religions speak of one all-powerful God. Others describe many gods. Some even see a spiritual force in everything, like in nature itself. This idea of many faces means that what people call God or ultimate truth can look very different based on where you are and what traditions you follow. For example, in ancient Greece, people believed in many gods like Zeus. In ancient Egypt, they worshipped gods with animal heads. Even today, major religions have their own names, stories, and ways of understanding the divine. Some see a personal creator, others focus on a universal feeling that connects everyone. But here's the thing, despite all these different ideas, many people wonder if everyone is actually seeking the same basic truth. They just use different words and different paths to get there. It's like trying to reach the top of a very tall mountain. Some people might take a path from the east, others a path from the west. The paths are different, but they all go to the exact same summit. So maybe the different religions are just different roads. There are different ways of understanding something so huge and mysterious that no single road can truly capture it all. This thought helps us look beyond just our own way of seeing things. It helps us appreciate the many journeys people take to find meaning. And it reminds us that deep down, we might all be reaching for something very similar. Have you ever felt a quiet whisper in your mind telling you something wasn't quite right? Maybe an adult said one thing, but your own feelings or what you saw told you something different. This soft nudge often starts us questioning. It's not about being difficult. It's about listening to your own thoughts, even when an important person has a different idea. Think of it like a ship's compass. Most times, it guides you well, but sometimes you might feel a quiet sense that the compass is pointing slightly off. You might need to check the stars and find your true north. Throughout history, big changes began when someone brave spoke up. Think of Galileo. Back then, everyone believed the Earth was the universe's center. Leaders even said it. But Galileo, with his telescope, saw the Earth revolved around the sun. He spoke up, though it was risky. This shows why it matters. Progress comes from asking questions, not just accepting. It's like when you're in a group project. Someone insists on doing something a certain way, but you've checked the instructions and their way doesn't quite fit. Do you just go along, or do you gently suggest looking at the instructions again? It's about seeking clarity and truth, not just blindly following. So, when is it right to speak up? It's right when your inner knowing, your sense of fairness, tells you something important is missed, or when a path feels wrong, or when truth seems hidden. It takes courage, yes, but it's a quiet courage. It's the strength to trust yourself, to protect what you believe is true, keeping your mind honest and clear. Have you ever thought about how people decide what's true, especially about big things like the universe itself? Imagine a world where the sun had a god, the moon had a god, and every whisper of wind had a spirit watching over it. This idea, where many gods exist, each with their own power and stories, is called polytheism. Ancient peoples, like the Greeks with their Mount Olympus, full of gods, or the Egyptians with their pantheon of animal-headed deities, believed in many divine beings. It was a way to explain the world around them, to give names and personalities to the forces of nature and life. But then, a different idea started to grow, a powerful thought that truly shook things up. What if there was only one God? This belief, called monotheism, said that one supreme being created everything and was in charge of it all. Religions like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are built on this idea. Here's the thing, if you believe there's only one true God, then suddenly all those other gods, all those other beliefs aren't true anymore. They become false. Think of it like this. Imagine your favorite sports team. What if someone declared that only their team could ever be the real champion, and all other teams were just pretending? That would cause some serious arguments, right? In the ancient world, when a new religion claimed there was only one God, It wasn't just a different opinion. It was a direct challenge to centuries of tradition, to the very identity of entire societies. It felt like saying everything they held sacred was wrong, that their rituals and stories were meaningless. This shift sparked intense fury, not just over who was right, but over who controlled the very idea of truth and belonging. It was a clash of ultimate realities, a deeply emotional struggle over what truly held the universe together. Have you ever stopped to really think about the ground beneath your feet, the air you breathe, or the water you drink? Where do these things come from? For many, the answer is simple: the earth. But what if we thought of the earth not just as a place, but as a living being, like a mother who gives us everything we need to survive? This idea isn't new. For a long, long time, many cultures around the world have seen the earth as Mother Earth, or Pachamama. They believe she was a sacred living entity, not just a pile of dirt and rocks. In ancient times, and still today in many indigenous traditions, people felt a deep connection to the land. They saw the forests, rivers, and mountains as parts of a larger, breathing organism. They understood that if you hurt one part, you hurt the whole. So, farming was done with respect, hunting was done with gratitude, and waste was kept to a minimum. It was like living in a shared home where everyone had a part to play in keeping it healthy and beautiful. But here's the thing, we often don't act like that anymore. Think about it like this. Imagine your own home. Your parents provide a roof over your head, food in the fridge, and a safe place to live. How would you feel if you constantly trashed it, left garbage everywhere, and broke things without a care? You wouldn't do that, right? Because it's your home, and you respect the people who make it possible. The earth is our ultimate home, providing for billions of us, constantly. So, when we pollute her waters, chop down her ancient forests without thought, or fill her lands with our trash, what does that really mean? Is it just a mistake, or is it something deeper? Maybe it's a kind of broken trust, a failure to honor the very source of our existence. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If the earth truly is our mother, then perhaps treating her badly isn't just irresponsible, but a profound betrayal of the gift of life itself. Have you ever truly stopped to wonder where we all came from? Not just your family, but all life on Earth's very tree. Every animal, every human being? This question is one of humanity's oldest mysteries, a quiet hum inside us all. For thousands of years, people have looked up at the stars and asked it. Here's the thing. While we all share this wonder, not every answer has been welcome. Throughout history, different cultures created amazing stories about life's start. Some spoke of powerful gods shaping the world from nothing. Others told of a grand cosmic egg or ancient spirits. These stories gave people comfort, purpose, and a sense of belonging. They felt profoundly right. But as time went on, and people started observing the world in new ways through science and careful study, different ideas began to surface. Imagine you've always believed a certain story about your family, one passed down for generations. It's a comforting tale, making everyone feel connected. Then, an old, forgotten letter is found, telling a completely different story, maybe one that's not so grand, or even a little difficult to hear. That new information can feel unsettling. It's not just about what is true, it's about what we're used to, what gives our lives meaning, and sometimes what keeps old ways of thinking in place. For many religions, the idea of creation is a core belief. It explains not only how we got here, but why. So, when new scientific ideas, like the theory of evolution, suggested that life might have developed slowly over millions of years from simpler forms, it felt like a direct challenge to those cherished beliefs. It wasn't always just about the scientific facts. It was about deep faith, about how people understood their place in the vast universe. Questioning the very beginning could feel like questioning everything they held dear. And that's why some ideas about life's origins, even today, can feel off limits. They touch the foundations of what people believe and how they see the world. It's a quiet reminder of how bravely we must hold our curiosity, always open to the vast, beautiful unknown of where we truly came from, even if it makes us feel a little small, a little uncertain. It's a powerful thing to simply ask and to keep asking. Have you ever really thought about who controls your own body? Like every single part of it, from your skin to your breath? It's a big question, isn't it? This idea that you have power over your own physical self is called bodily autonomy. It means you get to choose what happens to your body, what you eat, what you wear, and even important medical decisions. It's about being truly in charge of your own self. For much of history, people didn't have this freedom. In ancient times, your body might have belonged to your family, or your community, or even the gods. If you were a slave, your body definitely wasn't yours. Even later, kings or religious leaders often told people what they could and couldn't do. But then, thinkers started to ask deep questions. Philosophers like John Locke began to talk about individual rights, saying everyone has a natural right to their own body. This was a huge shift, challenging old beliefs that said someone else could control you. Think about your body like your personal phone. You get to decide who sees your photos, what apps you download, and who you text. You wouldn't want someone else just grabbing it and using it without your permission, right? And you definitely wouldn't want them telling you what kind of apps you're allowed to have. It's yours, and you control it. This isn't about being selfish. It's about having basic control over your own life. When others try to make choices for your body, it can feel like a piece of you is being taken away, like your thoughts are no longer private. It makes you feel less like you. So, when we talk about ideas being banned by religion, sometimes it touches on this core right. It's a quiet, ongoing conversation through time, a reminder that each person holds a unique world within their own skin. It's a powerful realization that this personal space, your body, is truly yours to guide and protect. It's a gentle whisper of freedom. Have you ever wondered why, even when we truly want peace, groups of people still struggle to get along? It's a deep question, one that has puzzled humanity for ages. Unity, at its heart, means coming together, finding common ground, and working as one, even when we have different ideas or backgrounds. It's about seeing our shared humanity more clearly than our small differences. Here's the thing. While unity sounds beautiful, achieving it is incredibly difficult. For centuries, people have tended to form groups based on shared beliefs, traditions, or even just where they live. Think about ancient tribes, or even modern-day fan clubs for a sports team. This us versus them thinking, as psychologists call it, makes us feel safe and connected to our own group. But it can also make us suspicious, or even fearful of those outside it. History is full of examples where different religions, nations, or even just neighborhoods found it easier to focus on what pulled them apart rather than what could bring them together. Imagine a puzzle. Each piece is unique, with its own shape and color. If every piece insisted on staying separate, the picture would never form. It's only when they connect, despite their unique edges, that the full, beautiful image appears. Or think about an orchestra. Each instrument plays its own part, a booming drum, a soaring violin, a gentle flute. If they all played their own separate tunes, it would be noise. But when they listen to each other, follow the same conductor, and blend their sounds, they create something truly magnificent, harmony. So why is unity so hard? Maybe it's because it asks us to be brave enough to look past those easy differences. It asks us to trust, to listen, and to find the quiet, strong connections that tie us all together, like invisible threads in a vast, beautiful tapestry. It's hard work, but perhaps the most important work of all. Have you ever thought about the quiet, gentle power of understanding? What if there was a feeling so strong it could soften hard hearts and mend broken places in the world? We often hear about love, but what about compassion? It's not just feeling sorry for someone. Compassion is like stepping into someone else's shoes and truly understanding their hurt, their fear, or their struggle, as if it were your own. Then, it's wanting to help them to ease their burden. Here's the thing. This idea isn't new. For thousands of years, wise people across many different cultures and beliefs have talked about how important compassion is. Thinkers from ancient Greece, philosophers in the East like the Buddha, and nearly every major religion teach about treating others with kindness. The golden rule, the idea of treating others the way you want to be treated, shows up almost everywhere. It's a simple rule, but it's packed with the power of compassion. Imagine you see a classmate struggling to carry a stack of books, maybe even dropping one or two. Compassion isn't just watching. It's feeling a little of their frustration or embarrassment, and then it's reaching out to pick up a book or asking, "Hey, do you need a hand?" This small moment, this simple act of care, shows someone they are not alone. It can change their whole day, or even how they see the world for a moment. So, can love in the form of compassion change everything? Maybe it's not about big, dramatic shifts all at once. Maybe it's about countless small acts of understanding and kindness building up one caring heart at a time. Every time we choose to be kind, every time we truly see someone else's struggle and offer a helping hand, we add a little light to the world. And that's why it matters, because even the smallest light can begin to push back the darkest shadows. Have you ever had a thought so clear, so true to you, that you just had to share it? Maybe it was an idea about how something could be better, or a feeling about something that wasn't fair. Imagine, for a moment, being told you couldn't say those words out loud, that your truth, your perspective, was forbidden. Free speech is simply the freedom to share your thoughts and opinions without fear of punishment. It's about letting ideas flow, like water through a stream, finding their own path. But throughout history, this natural flow has often been blocked. Why would anyone want to silence another's voice? Often, it came from a deep place of fear. Those in power, be it ancient kings, powerful religious leaders, or even groups within a community, sometimes worried about losing control. A new idea, a different way of thinking, can be like a tiny seed dropped into fertile ground. It might seem small, but given light and air, it can grow into a mighty tree, strong enough to break through old foundations. Think about a time you tried to explain a new game rule to your friends, and someone quickly shouted you down, insistent on the old way, even if your idea was better. That feeling of being cut off, of your thought being dismissed without a real listen, is a tiny echo of what it feels like when free speech is banned. Old beliefs, old ways of doing things, felt safe and stable to those who benefited from them. A different idea, especially one questioning authority or tradition, felt like a threat to that comfort and power. So, they tried to bury these thoughts, hoping they would simply disappear. They banned books, silenced speakers, and punished those who dared to whisper anything controversial. But here's the thing, ideas are not easily killed. You can ban a book, but the story often finds a way to be told. You can silence a speaker, but their words might echo louder in the quiet. Often, the act of banning speech only highlights the fear of those doing the banning. It shows they're scared of a truth, scared of a question, scared of change, and that, in itself, speaks volumes. It reminds us that true strength isn't in silencing others, but in allowing all voices to breathe, even the ones we might not agree with. Have you ever looked at the stars and felt a deep wonder? Or watched a tiny ant carrying a crumb and thought, how does it do that? What if that feeling, that quiet urge to ask why and how, was one of our greatest strengths? Sometimes, in life, we're told not to question certain things, especially when they involve old traditions, powerful ideas, or long-held beliefs. But is asking questions ever truly wrong? Here's the thing. Curiosity is like a quiet hum inside us, a natural desire to understand the world around us. It's what makes us explore, learn, and grow. Think about it. From the very first steps a baby takes, trying to figure out walking and touching everything, to a scientist trying to find a cure for a disease, questions are always the starting point. They open new doors. For a very long time, thinkers have believed in the power of questions. The ancient Greek philosopher Socrates, for example, believed that asking questions was the only real path to wisdom. He spent his life just talking to people, gently pushing them to think deeply about what they believed, even if it felt a little uncomfortable at first. His questions weren't meant to be mean, they were meant to help people see things more clearly. Imagine you're trying to figure out how a complicated machine works, like a bicycle. If you never ask, how do the gears connect? Or, why does the chain stay on? You might never truly understand it or even fix it if something breaks. That natural wonder is exactly how new inventions happen, or how an artist creates something completely new. It's not about disrespecting the original idea, but about exploring its edges, seeing what else might be possible. So, here's what I found. Asking questions is rarely wrong. It's a profound gift, a tool that helps us learn, challenge old ideas that might not fit anymore, and discover surprising new truths. Sometimes, our questions might make others feel uneasy, especially if those questions challenge something they've always held dear. But even then, the question itself isn't bad. It's the beginning of a journey, a quiet path we walk to understand ourselves and the world around us more deeply. It's how we find meaning, one wonder, one thoughtful question at a time. Have you ever wondered where true evil comes from? Is it something outside us? A dark force called the devil? always whispering bad ideas? Or is it something a lot closer to home? For a long time, many stories and religions have talked about a devil or some kind of evil spirit. This idea helps explain why terrible things happen. It gives us something to blame, something separate from ourselves. If there's a devil, then maybe humans are naturally good, just tricked or tempted. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the roots of cruelty, meanness, or even violence aren't from an outside enemy but grow right inside us? This isn't about blaming anyone, but about wondering where our darker actions truly begin. Some thinkers, like old philosophers and even modern psychologists, have explored this idea. They suggest that what we call evil might just be extreme versions of human feelings like selfishness, jealousy, fear, or a lack of understanding for others. Think about when someone acts really unkindly, maybe bullies another kid or spreads a rumor. It doesn't always feel like a devil made them do it, right? Sometimes it comes from their own hurt, their own desire to feel powerful, or even just not thinking about how their actions affect someone else. It's like a small seed of a bad feeling, if watered, can grow into a really thorny bush that hurts everyone around it. No external monster, just a choice or a pattern of choices that started small. So, if there's no devil, if evil is truly a human thing, then that changes how we think about it. It means we have a lot more responsibility for our actions in our world. But here's the powerful part. If it comes from us, it also means we have the power to change it. We can choose to grow kindness instead of cruelty. It makes us look inward, not outward, for both the problems and the solutions. And that's why it matters. Have you ever felt like you had to be perfect? Like every drawing, every answer, every moment had to be just right? It's a common feeling, this push to be flawless. But here's the thing. What if being flawed isn't a bad thing at all? What if those parts of us that aren't perfect are actually where our true beauty lies? For a very long time, many ideas about life and even some religions have told us to always strive for flawlessness. They often talk about fixing our sins or mistakes to reach a pure state. And that makes sense in some ways. We all want to do good and be better people. But then there are other ways of thinking, like the Japanese philosophy called wabi-sabi. This idea truly embraces things that are imperfect, incomplete, and even things that fade over time. It sees beauty in the crack of a pottery cup or the worn pages of an old book. They believe that true beauty often comes from these very imperfections because they show life, history, and unique character. Think about your favorite old t-shirt. It might have a small hole or a faded spot, but those little marks make it special. They tell a story of where you've been, what you've done. It's not just any t-shirt is your t-shirt. And that's kind of how we are too. Our flaws aren't always things to hide or fix. Sometimes they are simply part of our story, part of what makes us truly us. Being flawed isn't about giving up on trying your best or being a good person. No, it's about understanding that trying your best includes making mistakes, learning from them, and carrying the marks of your journey. Those flaws can be where kindness comes from, where understanding grows, because you know what it's like to not be perfect yourself. So, maybe the idea of truly accepting our imperfections isn't an idea to be banned, but one to really think about. It can teach us to be gentler with ourselves and with everyone around us. It reminds us that our unique marks, the ones that aren't perfect, are actually what make us beautiful and real. Have you ever liked a certain type of music, only to find yourself listening to something completely different a year later? Or maybe you were sure about a particular hobby, then your interest shifted. It happens, right? We grow, we learn, and sometimes our feelings and ideas about the world change. This idea of changing our minds, especially about really big things like our beliefs, leads to a deep question. Do we have the right to leave a belief system once we've been part of it? This isn't just about changing your mind on a small thing. This is about changing something that might feel like a part of who you are, something you were perhaps born into or taught from a young age. For a long time in history, in many places, it was seen as wrong, even dangerous, to change your beliefs. If you were part of a certain religion, leaving it could mean being outcast from your family, your community, or even facing severe punishment. But over centuries, thinkers and societies started talking more about something called freedom of thought. This means that deep down, what you think and believe is yours. It's a personal journey. You can't really force someone to believe something in their heart, even if they pretend to. Think of it like this. Imagine you've always used a specific path to get to school. It's the path everyone in your family takes. But then, one day, you discover a new path, maybe a bit longer, but it's more beautiful, with trees and a quiet stream. Do you have the right to explore that new path, even if it's different from what you've always known? The right to leave means you can explore new ways of understanding the world, to question, to seek truth wherever it might lead you, without fear. It's about respecting the inner compass that guides each of us. It's a quiet strength, this freedom to explore your own mind, to change your path when your heart calls you to it. It's a gentle reminder that growth often means letting go, and that is okay. Have you ever wondered if joy, real, deep happiness, is something everyone is truly allowed to feel? It seems like it should be as free as the air we breathe, right? But for a long time, in many places and across different beliefs, the idea of happiness, especially earthly happiness, was seen with a bit of suspicion. Think about it this way. Joy is just that wonderful feeling of being content, of experiencing warmth, laughter, and a sense of belonging. It's when your heart feels light, but some ancient teachings and even parts of some religions suggested that too much happiness in this life could actually be a distraction. They sometimes taught that true, lasting joy wasn't found in fun or pleasure here on earth. Instead, it was something you had to earn through hard work, sacrifice, or following very strict rules, maybe even waiting until an afterlife. It was like saying, don't enjoy this delicious cookie too much because there's a much bigger, better feast waiting for you later if you're good. This isn't about people wanting to ban joy. Often, it came from a deep belief that suffering or self-denial could purify a person, making them more worthy of divine love or ultimate peace. It was a way to guide people towards what leaders thought was the best kind of life, even if it meant holding back on everyday joys. Imagine a coach telling you not to celebrate a small win too much because the real championship is still far away and you need to stay focused. It's a bit like that, but applied to your whole life and your deepest feelings. So when we look at why happiness wasn't always for all, it's not because joy itself was bad. It was because people believed in different paths to what they considered the ultimate good. This makes you wonder, though, if the simple, natural joy of living is a gift we should all be allowed to embrace, no matter the path we walk. Perhaps happiness isn't something to be earned or controlled, but a fundamental part of being human that connects us all. Do you ever wonder why it feels so good to be absolutely sure about something? Or why, sometimes, having even a tiny bit of doubt can feel really uncomfortable? Here's the thing. People often seek certainty, like a warm blanket. It's that feeling of knowing for sure, without any questions. Doubt, on the other hand, is like a small whisper in your ear saying, are you really, truly sure? It's not about being wrong, but about not knowing everything yet. For a long time, since humans first walked the earth, being certain felt safe. If you were certain a berry was safe to eat, or that a shadow was just a tree, it helped you survive. Our brains are wired to find clear answers, because that gives us control and safety. Religions and belief systems often offer this comfort: a clear path, definite answers, a sense of belonging in a big, sometimes confusing world. Think about learning a new skill, like playing an instrument or solving a complex math problem. At first, you're full of doubt. You might hit wrong notes or get answers wrong, but that doubt pushes you to practice, to try different ways. Through that questioning, that not knowing for sure, you actually learn and grow. While certainty feels good, it's often doubt that leads us to new discoveries, new ideas, and a deeper understanding. It's a quiet invitation to keep looking, to keep asking, and to realize that sometimes the most profound wisdom comes from admitting we don't have all the answers. It lets our minds be open, like a window letting in fresh air, not a closed, locked door. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and truly wondered how it all began? Not just the stars, but everything around us, the earth, even time itself. For a long time and in many traditions, people believe a powerful being simply spoke the universe into existence. But here's another way to think about it. Science suggests the universe has its own set of invisible instructions, its natural laws. Think of them like the deep, unchanging rules of a cosmic game, rules the universe follows. For ages, humans told stories about gods creating the world by their will. These stories helped us make sense of a mysterious world. But centuries ago, thinkers started asking, what if things happen because of patterns we can observe, not just a divine command? This led to science, which tries to find the how, the step-by-step process, the natural forces at play. Consider a tiny seed. It doesn't need someone to tell it to grow taller daily. Its growth is built into its very nature, following biological laws about light, water, and soil. The universe, in a much grander way, might follow its own cosmic seeds and growth rules, unfolding over vast stretches of time. So, can science fully explain creation? It doesn't claim to know why there are laws in the first place, or if something set them in motion. But it humbly seeks to understand how everything unfolds, piece by piece, governed by these deep, silent, universal laws. It's like studying a beautiful, intricate dance, learning its movements and rhythm, even if the dancer's ultimate intention remains a profound mystery. And that is a deep kind of wonder. Why is it that sometimes, even though we know it's good to be kind, we still feel a little unsure or even scared of people we don't know? This idea of love for the stranger isn't just about being polite. It's about looking at someone completely new, someone from a different place or with different ideas, and choosing to see their humanity first. It means opening our hearts and showing kindness, even when there's nothing obvious for us to gain. It's about building bridges, not walls. But here's the thing, welcoming others isn't always easy. For a long, long time, humans have lived in groups, and there was safety in knowing who belonged. Someone new could be a threat, carrying different diseases, or having intentions that weren't clear. Our brains are built to protect us, and sometimes that means being wary of what's unfamiliar. This natural caution, passed down through generations, can make us pull back, even when there's no real danger. Many ancient stories and wise teachings across different cultures and religions talk about the importance of welcoming strangers. In times long past, when travel was dangerous, offering food and shelter to someone unknown wasn't just a nice thing to do. It was often a matter of life or death. It was how communities survived and how people shared knowledge. Think of it like a new student joining your class. At first, everyone might be a little quiet, unsure, but when someone steps up to say hello or invites them to play at lunch, the fear starts to fade. You learn new things, you find common interests, and the class becomes richer. So, while fear of the unknown is a very old feeling, maybe true strength comes from quietly choosing kindness anyway. It's in the quiet courage of reaching out, finding the shared spark of humanity, and making our world a little bigger and a lot more beautiful together. Have you ever just stopped to feel the rhythm of the world around you? The sun rises, then it sets. The moon grows full, then shrinks back. Winter turns to spring, and summer fades into autumn. Everything moves in a never-ending dance, a cycle of beginnings and endings, growth and rest. This is how nature works, how the earth breathes. It's a powerful, simple truth. Nothing stays the same forever. But here's the thing. For a long time, and in different places, some people found it really hard to accept this natural flow. Imagine wanting the sun to always shine, or a beautiful flower to never wilt. Why would anyone fight against something so basic? Maybe it was a deep fear of endings, a wish for things to stay perfect and unchanging. Maybe they wanted a kind of control that went against the very heartbeat of the planet. Long ago, early humans lived completely by these cycles. Their survival depended on knowing when to plant, when to hunt, when the cold would come. They saw birth, growth, death, and then new life again, all around them. It was a natural, often sacred dance. But as new ideas about what was true or eternal started to form, some ways of thinking began to push against this constant change. They dreamed of a world beyond decay, a perfect state that wasn't touched by time or the turning seasons. Think about your favorite song. You love listening to it, right? But imagine if it never ended, if it just kept playing the same note forever. It would stop being beautiful, wouldn't it? The silence, the pause, the next song, these are all part of the music cycle, and they make the whole experience meaningful. You need the quiet parts to appreciate the loud ones. So, the resistance to the Earth's cycles wasn't about hating nature. It was often about wanting permanence, an escape from the natural order of decay and death. But maybe real wisdom comes from accepting these changes, finding peace in the ebb and flow. It means understanding that every ending holds a new beginning, just like autumn leaves fall so spring can bloom. Have you ever looked at someone, maybe from a different country or with a different way of life, and felt a quiet wonder about what connects us? It's a big question, one that people have thought about for thousands of years. Are we all truly equal, deep down where it really matters? Shared humanity means that no matter where we come from, what we look like, or what beliefs we hold, there's a part of us that's the same. It's the idea that all humans share basic feelings: joy, sadness, fear, hope, and common needs, like needing love, safety, and a sense of belonging. Think of it like this. Just as every tree, from a tiny sapling to a giant redwood, needs sunlight and water to grow, every human being needs kindness and respect to thrive. This idea isn't new. Long ago, thinkers in places like ancient Greece and Rome, and later across different cultures, started to realize that beneath all our differences, there was a common thread. They saw that a king could feel grief just like a farmer, and a scholar could feel joy just like an artist. They began to wonder if what made us human was more powerful than what pulled us apart. This led to ideas about how we should treat each other, not based on power or wealth, but simply because we are all fellow travelers on this earth. When we consider our shared humanity, it's not about ignoring our unique qualities or the amazing differences that make us who we are. It's about looking beyond them to the quiet space inside where we all feel, dream, and wonder. It's realizing that a laugh from someone across the world sounds just like your own, and a tear shed in sorrow looks the same, no matter the language spoken. In that shared space, perhaps, we find a deep, unchanging equality that ties us all together, a gentle reminder that we are more alike than we sometimes imagine. Have you ever noticed how a small child looks at the world? They see things with such fresh, clear eyes, unburdened by all the rules and expectations we pick up as we grow older. They ask questions we adults might never dare to voice, simply because they haven't learned what's supposed to be true or what's polite to ignore. This isn't about children knowing more facts than grown-ups. It's about a pure way of seeing a kind of simple truth that hasn't been bent by years of what society, and sometimes even religion, tells us. For a very long time, in many cultures and through different belief systems, children were often taught that their place was to be seen, not heard. Their main job was to listen, to learn, and to obey. The idea was that adults held all the wisdom, and children were just empty spaces waiting to be filled with knowledge. This wasn't always because people were being unkind. Sometimes it was about keeping things stable, making sure traditions continued without being questioned too much. A child's honest question, however innocent, could sometimes poke holes in grown-up ideas that people preferred not to examine too closely. Think of it this way. Imagine a group of people always walking around a large, thorny bush to get to a path, because that's what everyone has always done. A child might simply point out, but there's a clear, open space right through the bush if you just stepped carefully. That child's direct observation, though simple, challenges a long-standing habit. If a child asks, why can't everyone be friends, no matter what they believe? Or, why do we have to do things this way just because someone said so a long time ago? Those clear, honest questions can feel unsettling to old systems and fixed beliefs. So, when we look back, we can't help but wonder what simple yet profound ideas might have been quietly lost, because we stopped listening to the clear voices of children. Perhaps the world always needed more of that pure, direct way of seeing things that honest perspective children naturally hold. It reminds us that truth isn't always complex. Sometimes it's just very clear if only we are brave enough to truly see it and listen. Have you ever looked at something incredible, something you couldn't quite explain, and thought, that's almost like magic? Maybe it was a perfect rainbow, or how a tiny seed grows into a towering tree. Here's the thing. For a long time, magic was how people explained what they didn't understand. Ancient humans watched the sun rise and set, saw lightning crack across the sky, and felt the earth tremble. They created stories of powerful gods and spirits to make sense of these amazing, sometimes frightening events. But then something shifted. People started to ask how and why in a different way. They began to observe carefully, test ideas, and look for patterns. This is how science slowly came into being. It wasn't about wishing for things to happen, but about patiently figuring out the rules of the world. And sometimes, when science finally explained something, that explanation felt just as amazing as any spell, maybe even more so. Think about a light bulb. For someone born 1,000 years ago, seeing a room suddenly filled with light from a glass ball would be pure magic. They'd have no way to explain it. But we know it's clever science. Electricity flowing through a thin wire, making it glow. And knowing how it works, understanding the tiny electrons and the energy, can make it feel even more beautiful and astonishing. It shows the incredible cleverness of human minds. So, science isn't just a list of facts or complicated equations. It's a way of looking at the world with open eyes and a curious heart, trying to understand its deepest secrets. And in that search, we often find things that fill us with a quiet, deep wonder, a feeling that connects us to everyone who ever gazed at the stars or watched a flower unfold. It's a gentle kind of magic, found in the pure beauty of how things truly are. Have you ever felt a deep, heavy sadness, like a shadow settling over everything? A feeling that maybe things won't get better? We often call this despair, and it sounds like something we should always avoid. But here's the thing. What if despair isn't always just a bad thing? What if, sometimes, it's a quiet, necessary part of finding something new? Despair isn't just being sad. It's a feeling of hopelessness, a belief that a situation is so bad it can't be fixed. It's like being lost in a dark forest, where for a moment you can't see any path out. We're taught to chase happiness, to avoid pain. But history and human experience tell a more complex story. Think about ancient philosophers, or even thinkers from times of great trouble. They sometimes saw despair not as a weakness, but as a kind of stark clarity. It can strip away false hopes, showing you what truly isn't working. It's like how a building needs to be torn down sometimes, deeply and completely, before a stronger, better one can be built. People like the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard, for example, talked about how facing deep despair could force you to truly understand yourself and your beliefs. It's a moment where pretending just isn't possible. Consider a student who tries very hard on a project, pours all their effort into it, but it fails completely. They might feel a crushing despair about their abilities, but this feeling, if faced honestly, could push them to ask, what did I really learn from this? What do I truly care about doing differently next time? It's not about giving up, but about a deep look at what needs to change. This feeling can be a quiet signal, guiding you toward a more real, honest kind of hope. So, maybe despair, in its own strange way, is not always an end. Sometimes, it's a dark, quiet room where, after your eyes adjust, you start to see tiny pinpricks of light you never noticed before. It can be a difficult journey, but sometimes, only when you truly feel lost do you begin to search for a new, stronger compass within yourself. And that's why it matters. Have you ever wondered why some things that feel good, truly good, are sometimes seen as wrong or even dangerous? Like the quiet happiness of a favorite food, the comforting stretch after a long sleep, or just feeling your own heartbeat as you run? Our bodies are amazing, aren't they? They tell us when we're hungry, tired, or need to move. Meeting those needs often brings a simple, natural joy. Across different cultures and religions, there's often been this idea that the body and its desires are somehow separate from the soul or mind. Some ancient thinkers believed that to truly be wise, you had to ignore your body's urges. They thought physical feelings could distract us from higher thoughts, like studying or praying. It was almost like the body was a wild animal needing to be tamed, or a noisy room keeping you from focusing. So here's the thing. Many traditions taught that too much pleasure, even simple ones, could make us selfish or forget what truly matters. It wasn't always that the pleasure itself was evil, but what they feared it might lead to. Imagine the pure joy a little kid has just spinning in circles until they fall down giggling. That's a simple bodily pleasure. But what if that spinning distracted them from chores or something important? It's about balance and where those lines are drawn. Sometimes these lines got very strict, turning natural feelings into forbidden acts. But here's what I found. Our bodies are part of us. They are not just containers. They are how we experience the world, how we feel warmth, taste, sweetness, and move. Maybe the challenge isn't to forbid all joy, but to understand our desires and learn to enjoy them in a way that truly serves us. It's about finding a calm space where our body's natural pleasures can simply be, without judgment, part of the amazing experience of being alive. Have you ever looked up at the night sky, feeling small but also full of questions, and wondered, what truly happens after our time here is done? Is this one life all there is, or could there be more? The idea of reincarnation whispers a beautiful possibility that maybe, just maybe, our journey doesn't end when our body fades. Simply put, reincarnation is the belief that when a living being dies, its soul or spirit, our true self, begins a new life in a new body. It's like a long, unfolding story where each lifetime is a chapter. This idea is ancient, stretching back thousands of years. You find hints of it in ancient Egyptian myths, and it's a core teaching in Hinduism and Buddhism, especially in places like India and parts of Asia. For many, the purpose of these cycles isn't punishment. Instead, it's a chance for growth, to learn lessons, and to work through something called karma, the idea that our actions, good or bad, create consequences that affect our future. Think of it like this. A caterpillar builds a chrysalis, seems to disappear, and then emerges as a butterfly. It's the same life, but utterly transformed, with a new shape and new abilities. It's not starting over from scratch, but continuing its journey in a different form, with all the lessons learned from being a caterpillar. If reincarnation is real, then every sunrise could be a fresh page, not just for a day, but for a new existence. This suggests mistakes aren't final, and our potential for kindness, wisdom, and understanding never truly runs out. Instead, we have endless opportunities to refine who we are, to learn compassion, and perhaps to finally get things right. It's a comforting thought, reminding us that life's lessons might just keep coming, giving us chance after chance to grow. Have you ever looked at a painting, heard a song, or read a story and wondered why it exists? Art is more than just pretty things. It's a quiet whisper, a powerful shout away for people to share what they see, feel, and believe. It can stir deep emotions, plant new ideas, and even inspire big changes. This quiet power is why art has often been controlled through history. Think back to a time before TVs or the internet. How did leaders or religious groups share ideas and keep people believing? They used art. Paintings in churches taught stories. Statues showed kings. Music filled ceremonies with a special mood. When art supported the rules, it was celebrated. But if it questioned things or showed a different way of thinking, it became a problem for those in charge. Here's the thing. People in power knew that if an artist painted a different kind of God, or a writer told a story about people rising up, it could make others start to wonder. It's like when you're building with Legos, but someone says you can only use red bricks, or only build houses. That takes away your freedom to create, right? So they made strict rules. Artists were told what was allowed, what styles were okay, and what messages they had to show. This wasn't about beauty. It was about managing thoughts and keeping control. The human spirit deeply wants to create, to speak its own truth. When art is held back, it's not just the artist who suffers. It's a piece of our shared human story that stays unwritten, a song that never gets heard. Controlling art is like trying to control our very thoughts and feelings. It tries to control the rich tapestry of what it means to be human. Have you ever wondered why some ideas, like ancient trees, seem to hold their ground even when new thoughts invite us forward? It's a curious thing, this pull towards the past. It's about how deeply we cling to beliefs and traditions even when the world around us shifts. Sometimes, holding on to the old feels safe. It's a comfortable blanket of knowing a path well-traveled. But here's the thing. Sometimes that comfort keeps us from seeing new possibilities. For centuries, people believed the Earth was the center of the universe. It felt right. When thinkers like Nicolaus, Copernicus, and Galileo Galilei suggested Earth actually circled the sun, it was unsettling. It shook up their entire understanding. Many resisted this new idea fiercely. It wasn't because it was wrong, but because it was new, unfamiliar, and it challenged a very old story they knew. Think about someone who only uses a flip phone. It works, it's reliable, and they understand it. A smartphone might seem too complicated, too different, so they stick to the familiar, even if it means missing out on new ways to connect or helpful apps. Letting go of old ideas is not about forgetting history. Instead, it's about having the courage to gently question, to wonder if there's more to see, more to learn. It's about being brave enough to step into the unknown with curiosity, knowing that every step forward builds a future that is more open, more kind, and truly wise. Have you ever wondered how the biggest changes in the world truly happen? Do they always arrive with a loud crash, like thunder? Or can they begin with a whisper, like a soft breeze? The deepest shifts in human understanding don't always come from grand battles or booming speeches. Often, they start with a quiet revolution, a subtle, slow turning of minds, sparked by a single, seemingly small idea. Imagine an idea, just a tiny seed of thought planted in one person's mind. It might feel strange, even wrong, compared to what people have always believed. But if it holds a spark of truth, it can begin to grow. Think about the way people once understood our place in the universe. For centuries, almost everyone believed the Earth was the unmoving center, with the sun and stars circling us. It felt right, made sense from what they could see. Then, thinkers like Nicolaus Copernicus and later Galileo Galilei dared to quietly suggest something different. What if, they wondered, the Earth actually moved around the sun? This wasn't a dramatic shout, it was a careful observation, a quiet calculation, a gentle challenge to the old view. This idea was met with disbelief, even fear, because it shook the very foundations of how people saw their world. But slowly, patiently, over generations, this quiet idea, born from deep thought, began to take root in more and more minds. It didn't force itself on people. Its truth slowly persuaded. This tells us something profound about ideas themselves. It means that even the simplest, most personal insight you might have, a new way you look at a problem or a feeling, holds a quiet power. Just like a single drop of water can eventually wear away stone, a quiet idea, if it is true, can reshape the way all of us understand the world, one gentle, thoughtful moment at a time. It reminds us that our own thoughts, no matter how small they feel, can be the start of something truly vast. Have you ever stopped to think about why we learn? Not just in school, but why people are naturally curious. Now, imagine a world where knowing too much was seen as dangerous. It might sound strange, but for long stretches of history, getting an education, or even just reading, was not a given right. Sometimes it was actually discouraged, or even banned, by those in power, including religious leaders. So, why hide something so valuable? Here's the thing, knowledge is powerful. It gives you new ways to see the world, to question what you're told, and to come up with your own ideas. Think of it like a secret map. If only a few people have the true, detailed map of the world, they control where everyone goes. They decide what's important, what's dangerous, and what's true. For thousands of years, writing itself was a mystery to most people. Only scribes or priests could read and write, holding the keys to stories, laws, and religious texts. This meant they controlled what everyone else knew and how they understood the world around them. Across different times and cultures, people in charge often believed that keeping knowledge restricted would help keep order. They worried that if everyone could read, think for themselves, or learn about different ways of life, it might lead to chaos. It might make people question tradition, or even challenge the way society was set up. So, important books, scientific discoveries, or new ways of thinking were sometimes kept hidden away in private libraries, or only shared with a select few. It's a bit like when you're trying to put together a complicated puzzle, but someone keeps some of the key pieces hidden from you. You can't see the full picture, and you can't understand how everything truly fits together. But the human spirit, that deep curiosity inside us, always strives to find those missing pieces. And that's why it matters. The hunger for knowledge is a part of being human. When we allow everyone to learn, to read, to explore new ideas, we're not just growing as individuals. We're building a world where understanding can bloom, where different thoughts can connect, and where we can all see more clearly together. It's a quiet, powerful freedom, this right to learn. Have you ever stopped to wonder why some stories echo through time loud and clear, while others whisper and fade, almost as if they were never truly told? It's a bit like looking at an old photo album where some faces are bright and clear, but others are blurry, hidden in shadow. These blurry faces, these quiet whispers are the voices of the marginalized. So, what does that mean? It means ideas, experiences, and ways of seeing the world that were pushed aside. They belong to people who weren't part of the main powerful groups, especially when it came to religious beliefs or practices. For a long time, certain institutions like dominant religious organizations held a lot of power. They often decided what was considered true, what was good, and whose ideas were important enough to share. If your ideas didn't fit their way of thinking, they might have been ignored or even actively silenced. Think about it like this. Imagine a class project where only the students who shout the loudest or who are already popular get their ideas listened to. Even if a quieter student has a brilliant, new way of solving the problem, their voice might not be heard. Their contribution gets lost, not because it wasn't good, but because the system wasn't set up to listen to everyone. Historically, it was similar. The loudest or most powerful voices shaped the narratives. They believed their understanding was the only right one, sometimes to maintain order, sometimes out of genuine conviction. But this often meant that different ways of knowing, different spiritual paths, or even different human experiences were deemed wrong or dangerous. And when these voices are ignored, we all lose something truly important. We lose different ways of understanding the universe, fresh ideas about what it means to be human, and unique perspectives that could make our world richer. It's like only reading one book in a giant library. We miss out on so many incredible stories, so much wisdom that could challenge us and help us grow. Listening to these forgotten voices isn't just about fairness. It's about making our understanding of the world more whole, more complete, and more beautiful. We learn that truth can wear many different faces, and that every voice, no matter how small, adds something vital to the grand human story. Have you ever seen someone stumble, and for a split second you felt a strange jolt in your own body? Or watched a movie character cry, and suddenly you felt tears welling up in your own eyes, even though their problems weren't yours? This feeling, this quiet echo within us, is a tiny glimpse into something truly profound: empathy. Empathy is more than just feeling sorry for someone. It's like being able to step into another person's shoes, not just to imagine what it's like, but to actually feel a bit of what they're feeling. It's about sensing their joy, their sadness, their fear, almost as if it's happening to you. It's feeling with someone, connecting to their inner world. For thousands of years, people have pondered this deep connection. Ancient thinkers, like those in Greece, spoke of sympathy, which means suffering together. But empathy goes a bit deeper. It's not just feeling for them, it's trying to understand their feelings from their unique perspective. Many spiritual and philosophical traditions across history, from the teachings of Buddha to the Golden Rule found in countless cultures, point to the idea of treating others as you would want to be treated. This simple rule hints at a deep understanding that comes from imagining yourself in their place. Here's an example. Imagine your friend is super nervous about a big presentation. You remember that flutter in your own stomach from your last speech. You might feel a hint of that nervousness yourself. So you don't just say, "Good luck." You might genuinely offer to help them practice because you truly get how scary it feels. In a way, our brains even have special cells called mirror neurons that light up when we do something, but also when we see someone else do it. It's like our brains are wired to understand and almost echo the experiences of others. So, empathy isn't just about being nice. It's a powerful human gift. It allows us to build bridges between hearts and minds to truly connect with people who might seem very different from us. It helps us see the world through more than just our own eyes, even if just for a moment. And that understanding, that quiet sense of shared experience, can gently change how we see everything around us. It reminds us that we are all part of one big, interconnected story, woven together by threads of shared feelings and understanding. Have you ever stopped to wonder, really wonder, what if everything we believe about what happens after we die isn't exactly true? What if there's no big reward in a heavenly place, or a frightening punishment in a fiery one? This thought can feel a bit scary at first, right? But it also opens up a powerful way to look at life. This idea suggests that maybe this life, the one we are living right now, is the whole point. It's not a practice round, or just a step to somewhere else. Instead, it's the test itself. It means our actions, our choices, and how we treat others here on earth are what truly matter. there isn't a final scorecard waiting for us in the sky. The score is how well we live, learn, and grow in this single journey. Think about ancient thinkers. Long before many of today's big religions were formed, philosophers in ancient Greece, like the Stoics, often talked about living a good life for its own sake. They focused on being honest, brave, and wise in the present moment. They believed this was the true path to meaning, not because of a promised afterlife. Even today, many people who aren't religious believe the most important thing is to make this world a better place for everyone, right here and now. It's kind of like playing a video game where there's no big scoreboard at the very end. The whole point of playing is the experience itself, making smart choices, enjoying the story, and solving puzzles as you go. Your impact isn't some digital high score, but how you played and what you left behind in the virtual world. So, if this life truly is the only test, what does that mean for us? It means every kind word, every brave decision, every moment you try to understand something new holds huge importance. It suggests our purpose isn't about reaching some far-off place, but about how we walk the path we're on. It makes us see kindness, courage, and finding joy, not as steps to get somewhere else, but as the very meaning of being alive. It's a thought that can feel big, but it also makes every moment incredibly precious. Have you ever thought about what it truly means to be open? We often believe being strong means never showing fear or looking unsure. But what if real strength comes from being vulnerable? Vulnerability, at its heart, is simply letting your true self be seen. It means taking down your guard, sharing your feelings, your worries, even your mistakes, without hiding. This isn't weakness. It's a quiet, deep kind of courage. For a long time, many societies thought showing emotions was a flaw. They praised toughness, never letting anyone see pain. But ancient wisdom often hinted that knowing your full self, even the messy parts, was important. Think about a sturdy tree. Its strength isn't just its solid trunk. It also has flexible branches that bend with the wind and hidden roots that spread deep, quietly connecting it to the earth. This ability to bend and connect, this quiet letting go, helps it stay strong through storms. It's a natural vulnerability that builds resilience. So, is being open always risky? Imagine you're worried about a big school project or a test. If you keep that worry completely bottled up, it can feel heavy and overwhelming. But what if you tell a trusted friend, "Hey, I'm actually really nervous about this presentation." Sometimes, just saying those words out loud, letting someone else see that feeling, can make it feel lighter. Maybe your friend feels the same, or offers a helpful tip. You didn't become weaker by sharing. You created a path for understanding and support. This is the quiet power of vulnerability. It's not about being careless or sharing everything with everyone. Instead, it's about choosing carefully, bravely connecting deeply with others. When we let ourselves be truly seen, we invite trust and understanding. It's a profound power that builds real bridges between people. It reminds us that our shared human experience, with all its challenges, is what truly connects us. Have you ever looked at something familiar, maybe an old tree in your yard, and suddenly wondered about its roots, how deep they go, or what they've seen grow and fall around them? That quiet feeling, that little urge to know more, is the gift of curiosity. It's like a soft voice inside us, always asking why or what if. It's not just about facts. It's about a deep human need to explore the edges of our understanding. This urge to question isn't new. For thousands of years, people have looked at the world with wonder. Think about the ancient Greek thinkers like Plato or Aristotle. They didn't have fancy labs or powerful telescopes, but they looked at the stars, the way people behaved, or how plants grew, and they asked huge, deep questions about life, the universe, and everything. They started by simply wondering, and that curiosity sparked entire ways of thinking that still shape our world today. Or imagine the first person who wondered why a seed grew into a plant, or why fire was hot. This drive to understand is what moved us forward, from making simple tools to exploring distant planets. It's like when you're building something with Legos. You don't just follow the instructions. You start wondering if you can add a new part, or make it fly, or combine it with another set. That's your curiosity at work. It pushes you to try new things, to see what happens when you twist the rules a little, or to just imagine possibilities beyond what's already there. And so, this leads us to a quiet question. Can we always seek more? Is there ever an end to what we can wonder about or what we can learn? Perhaps the true gift isn't finding all the answers, but keeping that quiet, wondering voice alive. It's about understanding that the journey of asking is often more profound than any single answer we might find along the way. It means embracing the never-ending path of discovery, holding on to that sense of wonder and letting it guide us gently through the mysteries of the world. Imagine looking up at the sky, believing everything revolves around you. Not just you, but your home, your earth. What if someone told you that wasn't true? For thousands of years, most people believed Earth sat still, at the very center of everything. This idea, called geocentrism, made perfect sense. The sun clearly rises and sets around us. It looks like we're the fixed point, and the heavens move for us. But then, thinkers like Copernicus and Galileo suggested something radical. Maybe the sun was actually the center, and Earth, with other planets, moved around it. This idea is heliocentrism. This wasn't just a new science fact. It was a huge challenge to what people believed about themselves, their special place, and their faith. For centuries, common understanding and religious teachings placed humanity at the heart of creation. It felt comforting to be the cosmos' focus. So, to hear Earth was just another planet orbiting a star felt like a demotion. It was like losing a crown, realizing you weren't the main character in the story. Imagine your town is the world's center. Then, a map shows it as one tiny dot on a huge, spinning globe. Unsettling, right? It changes your whole mental picture. This shift wasn't just about space. It was about pride and identity. Letting go of ideas that make us feel important is hard, especially with new evidence. It asked us to be humble, to rethink our place, and see ourselves as part of a much vaster, more amazing dance. Have you ever looked at something everyone just accepts and felt a small tug, a quiet question blooming inside you? Maybe it's a rule, a story, or a way things have always been done. We often think that questioning, especially big old ideas, might be seen as disrespectful or even wrong. But what if that very act of asking why or what if is actually a quiet pathway to something better, a gentle opening to new understanding? Dissent, at its heart, is simply the act of disagreeing, of speaking your mind when you believe something could be different or improved. It's not about being stubborn or rude. Instead, it's about a deeper kind of courage, a commitment to truth that goes beyond simply accepting what's handed down. Throughout history, many brave individuals have chosen to question widely accepted beliefs, even when those beliefs were tied to powerful traditions or religious teachings. Think of how, for centuries, most people believed the sun revolved around the earth. This idea was accepted by many faiths and cultures. But then, scientists, driven by careful observation and curious minds, dared to ask, is that really true? Their persistent questions, though sometimes met with resistance, slowly helped us see our universe in a new, more accurate light. This wasn't about attacking faith, but seeking a deeper understanding of reality. It's like when you're working on a group project for school, and your team keeps trying the same method, but it never quite works out. Someone, perhaps quietly at first, might suggest a new approach, a different way to organize the information. At first, it might feel strange or risky to change what's familiar, but if that new idea makes sense and helps the team create something truly amazing, then questioning the old way led to real progress. The same is true for bigger ideas about life or fairness. So, when a new idea ripples through the calm surface of what's known, it can feel unsettling, like dropping a stone into still water. Yet, it's often in that gentle ripple, that brave whisper of dissent, that true understanding begins to unfurl, like a new leaf reaching for the sun. It's a journey of listening, thinking, and slowly, together, building a world that is not just old, but also wise, compassionate, and always growing. Because sometimes, the most profound changes begin with a simple question, asked with an open heart and a hopeful spirit. Have you ever wondered if there's one big answer to everything? Like one true way the world works? Or one perfect path to live your life? For a long time, many people believed truth was just one single thing, like a straight line or a fixed point. It was thought that if you found it, that was it, no other way was right. This idea suggests that there's only one correct understanding of reality, or one correct way to believe, and that any other way of seeing things would be, well, wrong. Think about ancient times. Many societies and early religions often taught a very specific set of rules and beliefs, saying they were the only true ones, given by their gods or ancestors. For example, some old empires might have believed their king's word was the ultimate truth, or that their specific religion held the only way to understand the universe. But here's the thing. As people traveled more and learned about different cultures, they started seeing that other groups also had their own truths. They had different stories, different gods, different ways of understanding the world. It's a bit like looking at a mountain. If you're standing on one side, you see one view. If you walk around to another side, the mountain is the same, but your view changes completely. Both views are real, but they look very different. No single view tells the whole story, right? Or think about trying to solve a puzzle. There might be one final picture, but many different ways to put the pieces together. So, does truth always have just one face? Or can it be something more vast, something that we explore from many angles? Maybe the journey of searching for truth isn't about finding a single, narrow path, but about being open to all the ways we can learn, question, and understand the deep mysteries of our world and ourselves. It's about the wonder of discovery, not just the destination. Have you ever wondered why we learn so much more easily when we're having fun? Think about it. Does learning always have to be about textbooks and quiet desks? Or can it be something joyful, something that makes our spirits feel light and free? For a long time, many cultures thought play was just for kids, a way to pass the time before real, serious work began. But the truth is, play isn't just about fun. It's a deep, powerful way we explore the world, try out new ideas, and understand how things work. Play is like a secret language our minds use to experiment. It's when we build a fort, or make up stories, or even just daydream. We're trying out different possibilities without the pressure of being perfect. Ancient thinkers, like the philosopher Plato, even suggested that play was important for education, helping young minds grow naturally. And if you watch animals, you see young puppies or kittens tumbling and wrestling. They aren't just playing, they're learning important skills, like how to hunt or social rules, without even realizing it. They are practicing how to live. It's the same for us. Imagine you're trying to solve a puzzle. At first, it might feel hard, but as you move pieces around, trying different fits, you're playing with the problem. Each wrong turn isn't a failure. It's just another piece of information. And suddenly, the answer clicks. It feels good, right? That's the magic of play in action. It lets us experiment with ideas, connecting things in ways we never thought of before. So maybe the most profound learning isn't just about memorizing facts. Maybe it's about staying curious, about allowing ourselves to wonder, to question, and to explore the world with an open, playful heart. Perhaps that joy in discovery is a powerful light that no one can ever truly ban. Have you ever wondered if people deep down are always getting better? We often talk about progress, and it sounds like a good thing moving forward, getting smarter, building amazing new things. But is it always a straight line up for us as humans? Is there a point where we truly arrive at being the best we can be? Or does it just keep going, sometimes even backwards? For a long time, many societies believed things mostly stayed the same, or even got worse over time. They might have looked back at a golden age they thought was perfect. But then, especially over the last few hundred years, many started to believe in a steady climb upward. Think about how we built more complicated machines, or learned more about our bodies, saving lives. This really made people hope we were on a constant march towards becoming more perfect, better versions of ourselves. Here's the thing though, think about learning something new, like playing a musical instrument. At first, it's hard. You make lots of mistakes. Then you practice and get better. You might even feel like you've mastered it for a while. But then you try a really tough song, and suddenly you're making mistakes again, maybe even feeling frustrated. Does that mean you didn't progress at all? No. It just means progress isn't always smooth. The idea of human progress asks, are we as a species always improving our morals, our understanding, our way of living together? Some might point to incredible scientific discoveries, or how we've ended some terrible diseases. That certainly feels like progress. But then, if you look at history, or even today's news, you see wars, inequality, and moments where we seem to repeat old mistakes. So, maybe progress isn't a simple ladder we just keep climbing endlessly. Maybe it's more like a winding path, with ups and downs, moments of incredible light, and times of deep struggle. It makes you wonder, what does it truly mean to get better? Is it just about knowing more? Or is it also about being kinder, more understanding, even when life feels incredibly hard? It's a question that makes us look not just at what we build, but who we are. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like if your deepest thoughts, your quietest hopes, weren't truly yours? What if someone always had a window into your mind or controlled your personal choices? This is the core of privacy, the idea that we each have a sacred inner space. It's a personal world where our thoughts and feelings can be free, and our choices made without constant watching eyes. It's about your right to keep some things to yourself. For a long time, in different parts of history, some powerful groups, including certain religious authorities, believed controlling private lives was necessary. They thought that if they guided what people believed in their hearts, or how they behaved behind closed doors, they could create a more pure or orderly world. This often meant rules about what people could read, who they could marry, or even what they could think. It wasn't just about public actions. It was about shaping the very soul. They feared different ideas or secret doubts could challenge their power. Think of it like a quiet, hidden garden. For plants to truly blossom, they need time and space, away from constant interference. If every part of that garden were examined and controlled, the plants might struggle to find their unique shape or bloom naturally. Our own inner lives are a bit like that. We need a safe, private space to explore our thoughts, to question, to dream, and to simply be ourselves without fear of judgment. When this right to a private self is taken away, something profound is lost. People can become afraid to explore new ideas or to truly understand who they are. It can make them pretend to be someone they're not, just to fit in or avoid trouble. So, understanding the right to privacy helps us remember that true human freedom isn't just about what we do in public. It's also about the quiet, unburdened space within each of us. It's about letting each person's unique spirit grow without outside control. Have you ever wondered where the deepest ideas come from? Not from books or teachers, but from somewhere inside you? Sometimes the world is so full of noise, it's hard to hear anything clearly. That's where the idea of the wisdom of silence comes in. It's not just about stopping noise around you. It's about finding quiet inside your own head. It means giving your mind a break from all the talking, all the screens, all the constant input. It's about creating a space for your own thoughts to breathe. For thousands of years, people have believed in the power of quiet. Think about spiritual teachers from different cultures, like monks in ancient monasteries or philosophers sitting alone by a river. They often chose quiet, isolated places not because they were lonely, but because they believed deep thinking and true understanding happened best in silence. The Greek philosopher Pythagoras, long ago, even made his students stay quiet for years, just to learn to listen and observe. This wasn't about being forbidden to speak. It was about learning to hear your inner voice. It's kind of like when you're trying to solve a really tough problem in math or figure out a difficult coding bug. If you're distracted by music or other people talking, it's hard to focus. But if you step away, go somewhere quiet, and just let your mind work, sometimes the answer just pops into your head. That quiet time allows your brain to connect ideas in new ways. So maybe silence isn't just an empty space. Maybe it's a mirror. It shows us parts of ourselves we don't always get to see when life is loud and busy. In that stillness, we might discover our own true feelings, our own honest questions, and maybe even find answers that feel right for us, deep down. It's a calm way to understand who we are and what truly matters. Have you ever looked at an ancient tree, its rings telling a story of countless seasons, and wondered how far back its life stretches? Or peered into the night sky, seeing light from stars that existed before you, before your grandparents, before recorded history? It makes you feel small, doesn't it? But also connected to something incredibly vast. For a long time, across many cultures, the age of our Earth wasn't something people could measure. Instead, its story was told through sacred texts, through beliefs passed down through generations. These stories often spoke of creation happening in days, or in a very short span of time. They gave the world a beginning that felt close, understandable, perhaps only a few thousand years ago. Here's the thing. These old stories weren't trying to trick anyone. They offered comfort and meaning, explaining where we came from when there were no other answers. They tied us to a divine creator and made the world feel like a familiar home. But as humans learned more, as science grew, people started looking at rocks, fossils, and the way elements decay. They saw patterns, layers, and changes that just couldn't fit into a short timeline. Geologists found mountains that took millions of years to form, and paleontologists found dinosaur bones from an age far beyond what any old book described. Think of it like this. Imagine your family has always told a story that your house was built just 20 years ago. It's a good story and it makes sense to you. But then, an architect comes along and sees the old foundation, the ancient timber, and finds documents showing the house is actually 200 years old. The old story wasn't wrong in spirit, but it didn't have all the facts. And that's what happened with our Earth. Science revealed a much, much older past, billions of years old, a vastness that humbles us. So, while those older stories gave us a framework for belief, they also, in a way, made time stand still for a very long time until curiosity helped us gently push it forward. Have you ever stopped to wonder if there's more to the world than what our eyes can see, our ears can hear, or our hands can touch? We live in a world of sights and sounds, things we can measure and prove. But what about the things we can't? This is the unseen world. It's not about magic or ghosts necessarily. It's about everything that exists beyond our five senses. Think about your feelings you can't physically hold joy or fear, right? But they are incredibly real, powerful things that shape our lives. For thousands of years, people have thought about this. Ancient thinkers, like the Greek philosopher Plato, imagined us living in a cave, only seeing shadows on a wall, thinking those shadows were the whole reality. But what if there was a whole bright world outside the cave we couldn't yet see? Religions too often talk about unseen realms, like heaven or a spirit world or concepts like the soul that isn't a physical thing. This isn't just old ideas. Even now, many believe there's a deeper layer to existence, something we sense but can't fully grasp. Consider love. You can't put love in a box. You can't point to it and say, there it is. But when someone cares deeply for you, or when you feel that bond with a friend or family member, you know it's real. It changes things. It makes you feel safe or happy. Love is a powerful force, completely unseen, yet its effects are everywhere. It's a perfect example of how something that isn't physical can be profoundly true. So, thinking about the unseen isn't about being unrealistic. It's about being curious. It's about wondering what possibilities lie just beyond what our normal senses can pick up. Maybe understanding the unseen helps us understand ourselves better, too, our thoughts, our feelings, and that quiet, knowing part of us that feels connected to something bigger. It invites us to pause and reflect on how much we might still have to discover, even within our own minds. Have you ever wondered what it truly felt like to speak a deep truth when everyone insisted it was a lie? Imagine a time when voicing an idea, even if you believed it, could cost you everything. For centuries, across many cultures, religious beliefs weren't just thoughts. They were the absolute bedrock of society. They shaped how people understood the world from the stars to their own lives. Challenging these ideas wasn't just disagreeing. It was often seen as questioning the divine itself, going directly against sacred law. Here's the thing. Individuals who dared to speak up faced harsh dangers. Think about someone like Galileo Galilei. He looked through his telescope and observed the heavens, seeing things that didn't fit with the accepted religious view of the universe. He presented clear evidence that the Earth orbited the sun, but this discovery went against the powerful religious teachings of his era. His bravery wasn't just about being correct. It was about standing firm when every influential voice told him he was wrong, even threatening him. So why was speaking out so brave? It's a bit like when you witness something unfair happening, maybe a friend being wrongly accused. It takes deep courage to step in, to use your voice, even when you know it might put you in a tough spot. Now, imagine that risk multiplied 1,000 times. The consequences weren't just discomfort, but possibly losing your good name, your freedom, or even your life. People who spoke up weren't just debating ideas, they were challenging the entire, powerful structure that held societies together. They risked being outcast, shamed, or punished severely. Their words were like tiny, fragile sparks flickering in a dark night, hoping to ignite understanding, even when the task seemed impossible. And that's why their courage still matters so much. The bravery of those who spoke up, who gently yet firmly questioned what was considered unquestionable, slowly began to open doors to new ways of thinking. It's a quiet reminder that a singular truth, even a small and whispered one, can possess immense power. Have you ever wondered about the quiet, mysterious ways our hearts choose who to care for? It's a feeling that seems to bloom on its own, like a wildflower finding its way through cracks in the pavement. But here's the thing. Sometimes, this natural feeling runs right into walls of rules and old beliefs. Why is it that some kinds of love, which feel so real and true to the people involved, are sometimes called wrong by others or even by whole societies and religions? To understand this, we can think about how people have always tried to make sense of the world and how they live together. Long ago, and even now, many communities built rules around family and marriage. These rules weren't just about feelings. They were often about who inherited land, who had power, or how groups stayed strong. So, if a love didn't fit those rules, maybe it crossed tribal lines, or involved people of the same gender, or someone already promised to another, it could be seen as a threat to the way things were organized. It's a bit like how a river naturally wants to flow downwards, following the easiest path. But if humans build a dam, the river's flow changes. The dam isn't evil. It's built for a purpose, like generating power or creating a lake. In the same way, human societies and religions have built dams around love, for reasons they believe were important for their community or their faith. These reasons often felt sacred, like they came from a higher power. So while a heart might simply feel love, regardless of age, gender, or background, the world outside that heart has often set very specific boundaries. This isn't always about judging the feeling itself, but about holding on to traditions or beliefs about what makes a family, or even what a God expects. It leaves us with a deep question. Is love truly wrong just because it doesn't fit the rules humans have made? Or is the heart's own reason a powerful truth all its own? Have you ever wondered if right and wrong are like gravity, always the same, everywhere, no matter what? Or are they more like fashion, changing with the times, evolving as people do? Here's the thing. Some people, and even some old ways of thinking, suggest that there are no absolute morals. This means they believe right and wrong aren't fixed, unbreakable laws set in stone forever. Instead, they might be ideas that human societies create, ideas that can shift and change depending on where you are, what time period it is, or what the situation calls for. Think back to ancient Greece. Some thinkers called sophists started asking big questions about this. They wondered if what we call justice or good was truly a divine rule, or just something people decided together to make society work. And later, many years later, thinkers in Europe during a time called the Enlightenment also picked up this idea. They asked if our moral rules came from a higher power, or if they were things we could figure out just by using our own minds and logic. Consider something simple, like what's considered polite. In some cultures, it's rude to make eye contact with an elder. In others, it's a sign of respect. Neither is absolutely right or wrong. They just reflect different ways of living. Or think about certain laws, things that were once accepted, like child labor, are now seen as deeply wrong. This shows how our shared ideas of what's right can truly transform over time. This idea can feel a little unsettling because it means there isn't always a simple answer. But here's what I found. It doesn't mean everything is suddenly okay, or that nothing matters. Instead, it invites us to look deeper, to truly think about why we believe what we do. It asks us to consider our actions, not just follow a rule book, but to understand the heart of what makes something kind, fair, or just. It's a quiet invitation to build our own moral compass, one thoughtful step at a time. Have you ever stopped to think about why some things feel so deeply important to us, even if they aren't physical objects we can touch? Like the quiet understanding in a friend's eyes, or the special feeling of sharing a secret laugh. Where do these moments get their deep meaning? Often, they don't just appear from nowhere. They are carefully woven together by people, by us, through something truly powerful, shared beliefs. Here's how it works with meaning. It's not always a fixed thing, like how gravity works. A shared belief is when a group of people quietly agree that something holds importance, or is true or truly valuable. Think about a school mascot. On its own, it's just an animal picture, right? But for the students, it comes to mean spirit, pride, and a sense of belonging. That deeper meaning isn't built into the animal itself. It's something everyone agrees on and feels together. For a long, long time, many cultures leaned heavily on ancient stories or religious books to tell them what was meaningful. These old ideas shaped everything from how people lived their daily lives to what they held most dear. But as centuries passed, deep thinkers, called philosophers, began to explore a new idea. They wondered if we could, as a group, quietly decide what's truly important, what's good, or what gives life its quiet purpose, rather than just accepting what had always been passed down. Consider a group of friends working on a big project. They might naturally decide that kindness and helping each other are the most important unwritten rules. They create that shared understanding, that quiet meaning, through their actions and their gentle agreements. It's like building an invisible world where certain simple things hold special value because everyone involved truly agrees they do. This isn't about pushing away old wisdom, but about realizing that our hearts and minds, when connected, hold the gentle power to create new pathways of meaning in the world. And that's why it matters. It means we each have a quiet part in shaping the world's deepest unspoken truths. Have you ever looked at an old map, maybe one drawn hundreds of years ago, and noticed the edges? Sometimes they had pictures of strange monsters, or a blank space marked, "Here be dragons." It makes you wonder, did people truly believe dragons lived there? Or was it a way of saying, don't go past this point? This idea touches on something deep, the forbidding of journeys, not just to faraway lands, but also journeys of the mind. Think about it this way. What if certain questions were off limits? What if exploring a new idea was as forbidden as sailing off the known world? For much of history, powerful groups, often guided by religious beliefs, sometimes drew invisible lines around what people could do or even think. They feared that new discoveries or different ways of seeing the world might shake up their established order. If everyone started questioning everything, what would happen to the traditional beliefs that held society together? This wasn't always about being mean. Sometimes it was about maintaining peace or protecting beliefs they thought were sacred, but it also meant that truly amazing explorations, both physical travels and discoveries of new knowledge, were sometimes stopped. It's a bit like when you're told not to read a certain book, not because it's dangerous, but because the ideas in it might make you think differently. Imagine if no one was allowed to study space because it challenged older ideas about Earth being the center of everything. That's what happened to people like Galileo, who looked at the stars and saw things that didn't fit the accepted story. His journey of scientific observation was seen as a threat. So, when we look back, we see that the forbidden journey wasn't just about ships reaching new shores. It was also about minds reaching for new truths. And it makes you wonder what amazing things we might have missed and how much human progress was slowed, because curiosity itself was sometimes considered a dangerous path. It reminds us of how precious the freedom to explore really is. Have you ever thought about how everything changes? Not just the seasons, but you, your ideas, even the world around you. We often see change as hard, something we might want to avoid. But what if, instead, change holds a quiet, deep beauty? Here's the thing. Evolution, at its core, is simply the idea that things shift over a very long time. This isn't just about living creatures changing. It's also about ideas, thoughts, and even our understanding of the world slowly adapting. It means growing, learning, and becoming something new, often something better suited for what comes next. It's about life finding new ways to be. For hundreds of years, many people believed everything in the world was made exactly as it was, and it would stay that way, fixed and unchanging. The idea that life itself could slowly transform, that creatures could adapt their forms over millions of years, was a truly challenging thought for some. But then, thinkers like Charles Darwin helped us see the world differently. By watching nature closely, he showed us that life is always moving, always finding new ways to thrive. This wasn't about being imperfect. It was about life's incredible ability to respond and flourish. Consider a tiny caterpillar. It doesn't stay that fuzzy little creature forever. It goes into a chrysalis, a small, quiet space. And inside, something amazing happens. it changes completely. It emerges as a beautiful butterfly with bright, colorful wings ready to fly. That transformation from one form to a new, often more wonderful one, shows us the deep, quiet power of change. So, maybe change isn't always a punishment or just something to get through. Maybe it's a steady, ongoing dance of life itself, allowing for new forms of beauty, new ways of understanding, and new kinds of being to appear. It reminds us that growing and adapting are natural, a part of being truly alive. And in that constant unfolding, there can be a gentle, quiet blessing, full of possibility and hope. Have you ever had that quiet feeling inside you? Like a soft whisper telling you what's right or what's wrong. It's that tiny voice, your conscience. But why do we sometimes find it so incredibly difficult to actually listen to it? It's a question people have thought about for ages. Here's the thing about conscience. It's like an inner compass, a gentle guide within us. It's that deep sense that knows good from bad even when no one else is watching. It's a moral guide helping us navigate our choices. For thousands of years, people tried to understand this inner knowing. Ancient Greek thinkers, like Socrates, believed knowing yourself was key. He thought our inner voice was a kind of divine guide, always nudging us toward what is true and good. Later, many spoke of it as our moral reason, a part of us that figures out ethical choices. It's often seen as a deep part of being human, what makes us truly unique. But here's the problem. Our world is full of noise. Friends might push us one way, social media shows another path. Sometimes, doing what's easy or popular is simpler than doing what feels right. Imagine you found a lost wallet. Your conscience tells you to return it, but then a louder thought, perhaps wanting something cool, tells you to keep the money. The choice seems clear, but desire or the fear of looking silly can make it hard to follow that quiet inner knowing. Often, we just push that voice down. We ignore it because listening might mean changing something hard about ourselves or facing an uncomfortable truth. Maybe it means saying sorry or admitting we were wrong when it's tough. It's often easier to pretend it's not there. So, instead of peace, we get this nagging regret, a quiet unrest that stays with us. True peace comes when we learn to quiet the outside noise and truly hear what our deepest self is telling us. It's a brave act, listening to ourselves, and it's how we truly grow.